Chapter 739. Zhou had been observing for a long time, but his luxurious mythical pet army had already been decimated by the 9 black dragons. Torch Dragon was seriously injured, and Tyrant Behemoth roared repeatedly, unable to reverse the battle. Truth Listener showed signs of going berserk. The great Might Vajra bull on the shore had been killed at some point in time. Demonic Neonate didn't seem to have found an opportunity to attack as she kept hiding. Zhou unsummoned Truth Listener, preventing it from shattering the earring again. He also unsummoned Torch Dragon. The heavily injured Torch Dragon basically didn't have any combat strength left. Without using Bright Torch Vision World, Torch Dragon's combat strength could only be considered top-notch, but in such a battle, top-notch wasn't enough. Only Tyrant Behemoth was left on the front line. It was being abused by the 9 black dragons as it roared angrily, but it was still completely suppressed. Not only was Zhou not discouraged, but he also became happy. This was because after watching for so long, he had discovered a secret of the 9 black dragons. In terms of appearance and abilities, the 9 black dragons didn't have any obvious difference. Their offensive methods were similar, so they could be treated as septuplets. Therefore, Zhou initial plan was to kill them one by one. However, after Zhou used his eyes of penetration to see the dragon balls in their bodies, he discovered a special phenomenon. Although the powers in the 9 dragons could freely transfer and there weren't any problems during the transfer process, Zhou realized that the Wu Dragon Ball would light up every time their powers transferred. For example, when Li Dragon attacked, it would condense the power of 9 dragons. At that moment, the Li Dragon Ball would light up. However, the Wu Dragon Ball would light up with the Li Dragon Ball. The other Dragon Balls didn't light up. However, when the Can Dragon Ball attacked, the Can Dragon Ball would also light up with the Wu Dragon Ball. In other words, no matter which dragon condensed the power of 9 dragons, the Wu Dragon Ball would light up. Only when the dragon in the Wu Dragon Ball attacked would only its Dragon Ball light up. From this point, Zhou suddenly realized that perhaps the dragon in the Wu Dragon Ball was the core of the 9 black dragons, or rather, a transit station. Perhaps it was because of its existence that the 9 black dragons could freely transfer their powers. If I kill the black dragon with the Wu Dragon Pearl first, will the 9 dragons become one be destroyed? Zhou decided to give it a try. After exiting the game and refreshing the dungeon, Zhou entered the game again and summoned his luxurious group of mythical pets. However, this time, after getting Dr. Darkness to possess him, he switched his primordial energy art to the Godfiend era. The Lost Country Life Soul also appeared on his finger. Since I can't find an opportunity, I'll forcefully create one. Zhou stared at the 9 black dragons in battle with a burning gaze as he locked onto the black dragon with the Wu Dragon Pearl. The 6 wings on his back flapped gently as Zhou gradually approached the battlefield. When the 9 black dragons noticed him and were about to attack, Zhou suddenly vanished. The black dragon that was about to attack was slightly taken aback as Zhou's figure appeared above the other black dragon's head. He knelt on one knee on the dragon's head and pressed his left hand on the dragon's skull. His right hand stabbed into the dragon's head with devil-like strength. The hard dragon scales and dragon bones failed to block the ghostly palm. In an instant, Zhou's palm had already been pulled out of the dragon's head. In between his slender fingers was a crystalline dragon pearl. After losing the dragon pearl, the black dragon seemed to be an empty shell that had lost its brain. Its body lost its vitality as it plummeted to the bottom of the sea. What surprised Zhou even more was that, after he crushed the dragon pearl, the invisible chains that connected the 9 black dragons also shattered. The 9 black dragons immediately turned into a pile of loose sand. 2 black dragons roared as they charged at Zhou. Using Transcendent Flying Immortal, Zhou's speed wasn't any slower than the black dragons. Without the augmentation of the 9 dragons, the black dragons couldn't catch up to Zhou. A black-purple sword beam streaked across the sea and stabbed into a black dragon's eye, piercing through the dragon pearl in its head, killing it. Demonic neonate had finally attacked. On the other side, Tyrant Behemoth was even more excited. Without the suppression of the 9 dragons' power, its absolute strength erupted and snapped a black dragon's dragon horn. Then, it punched out again and again, smashing the black dragon's head to pieces. The 9 black dragons, who originally had the absolute advantage, immediately became the ones being trampled after losing the crucial Wu Dragon Pearl. Following that, there was no need for Zhou to take action. The luxurious team of mythical pets had already killed the remaining black dragons until they howled in pain. Indeed, it's not difficult for those who know. Knowledge is the best productive force. If I had known that these 9 black dragons had such a relationship and weakness, I wouldn't have waited until today to kill them. The patriarch's words were right. Know yourself and your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Zhou sighed at the importance of knowledge. Killed mythical creature, true blood demon dragon. Discovered dimensional crystal. One true blood demon dragon after another was killed as the information constantly refreshed. Finally, he saw a true blood demon dragon drop a dimensional crystal. It was a crystal with 80 strength. It was very high level and valuable, but unfortunately, Zhou couldn't use it now. There's only 2 black dragons left. Zhou was still hoping for a black dragon companion egg to drop. However, even when the dragon pearl in the last black dragon's head was pierced by demonic neonate's sword, it didn't drop a companion egg. Instead, another dimensional crystal dropped, and it was an essence energy skill crystal. Zhou picked up the essence energy skill crystal and realized that the attribute requirement was 41 strength and 21 fire. It was different from the requirements of the true blood demon dragon crystal he had previously obtained. Since his strength and fire stats weren't enough, Zhou could only give up. Zhou was already used to it, so he didn't feel the pinch. Seeing that his companion beasts weren't injured, he led them towards the war wagon. Now that the 9 black dragons weren't disturbing him, Zhou wanted to see if he could kill the guardian in the war wagon. This was the hope of advancing the slaughterer life soul. After opening the car door, Zhou entered with his companion beasts and saw the cocoon floating in the void. Without being in a hurry to approach, Zhou used the eyes of penetration to look at the cocoon, hoping to see what the creature inside looked like. Something strange happened. The white cocoon was clearly right in front of him, but the light of penetration seemed to be separated from the white cocoon. No matter what, it couldn't shine on the white cocoon. Zhou immediately recalled that he had encountered a similar situation when he first entered. Back then, he wanted to pierce through the white cocoon to extract the blood, but he couldn't touch the white cocoon no matter what. He had to use the characteristics of the Overlord's sword to tear through space and touch the white cocoon in the void. The light of penetration clearly didn't have such characteristics, so it couldn't reach the white cocoon at all. I'm going to fight anyway. It's fine if I don't watch. Zhou summoned the Golden Overlord's sword and slashed out a sword beam that tore through the void and slashed at the white cocoon. Chapter 740. With the augmentation of Ever Victorious and Unstoppable, the golden sword aura forcefully sliced through the white cocoon's shell. As the cocoon's shell cracked, Zhou saw a palm extend out from the white cocoon. It was a man's palm. His fingers were long and powerful. Zhou could clearly see that there were 6 fingers on the palm, but the layout of the 6 fingers didn't look out of place. It looked similar to a normal palm. On the 6 fingers there was a ring of different shapes and materials. As he could only see the palm, he didn't know what the surface of the ring looked like. Just as the golden sword aura was about to slash at the palm, a ring on the palm seemed to emit an invisible fluctuation. Wherever the fluctuation passed, space-time seemed to freeze. Countless dust fragments froze as the golden sword aura stopped in front of the palm. Although the golden sword aura was less than an inch away from the palm, it couldn't advance any further. It wasn't just the golden sword aura. Zhou pets were affected by the fluctuation. Although they had already used their strength to resist the fluctuation, the effect wasn't very good. Apart from Tyrant Behemoth, which maintained its absolute strength state, most of the companion beasts were immobilized. Companion beasts at the level of Torch Dragon and Truth Listener found it difficult to move in the fluctuation. The blood-colored avatar was also immobilized. Zhou felt that the blood-colored avatar's bodily functions had stopped functioning. Its essence energy seemed to freeze, preventing him from controlling it at all. Tyrant Behemoth roared as it charged at the white cocoon and punched the six-fingered palm. The frozen dust and the golden sword aura were shattered by Tyrant Behemoth's fist. Just as Tyrant Behemoth was about to strike the palm, the other ring on the palm shimmered. Boom! Tyrant Behemoth's punch struck Torch Dragon's body, immediately sending its huge body flying, causing blood to spray out of its body. Zhou was somewhat surprised. Tyrant Behemoth had clearly struck the white cocoon, but for some reason, its fist had struck Torch Dragon's body. It looked like some kind of spatial dislocation skill. From the looks of it, the guardian in the white cocoon has spatial skills, Zhou thought to himself. Tyrant Behemoth continued attacking violently, but every time its fist struck the white cocoon, it would strangely strike its companion. After a few punches, the palm in the white cocoon didn't suffer any damage. Instead, Zhou companion beasts were beaten up by Tyrant Behemoth. After watching for so long, Zhou was certain that the Guardian was definitely a spatial expert. Once Tyrant Behemoth's absolute strength ended, it was frozen by the spatial fluctuations, unable to move again. At that moment, a void that resembled a black hole appeared in the palm of the palm. It sucked the companion beast and the blood-colored avatar in before the game screen went black. A spatial guardian has abilities similar to spatial solidification, spatial folding, and black holes. Tyrant Behemoth can fight it in its absolute strength state. Zhou sorted out the clues he knew, hoping to find a way to restrain it. I wonder if the Lost Nation's spatial ability will be of some use. After some thought, Zhou realized that unless Torch Dragon used Bright Torch Vision World from the beginning, it would be very difficult to kill the Guardian. Why are all Guardians so powerful? Are there no Guardians with weaknesses? Can I kill a few to advance my life soul? Zhou waited for a period of time. After his skills recovered, he dripped his blood to revive and entered the game again. The 9 black dragons in the underground sea had yet to respawn. The war wagon was still parked at the bottom of the sea, but the door had already closed. Zhou didn't summon any other pets and summoned Explosive Fiend Man Tyrant Behemoth's absolute strength hadn't reached its limit, so it couldn't be used again. Therefore, Zhou didn't come with the intention of killing the Guardian. He only wanted to see if his Godfiend arrow was useful against the Guardian. Zhou got Explosive Fiend Man to use the Time Bomb skill on the war wagon. One time bomb after another was engraved on the war wagon. It took him more than an hour to fill the war wagon with time bombs. With Zhou order, the huge war wagon exploded like an atomic bomb, forming a terrifying shockwave at the bottom of the sea. A huge jellyfish-like cavity appeared in the sea. Zhou had severely underestimated the might of the explosion. He had already retreated 100 meters away, but he was still blasted to death. The game screen went black. Is this war wagon that powerful? Zhou was somewhat alarmed. When he arrived in front of the war wagon again, it had already recovered to its original state. Zhou began to get Explosive Fiend Man to use the Time Bomb skill to cover the entire vehicle. This time, Zhou had experience. He retreated far away and watched from the distant shore. With a command, Explosive Fiend Man caused all the time bombs to explode. Standing on the shore, Zhou saw the waves churn, stirring up a tsunami-like wave. Ignoring the wind and waves, Zhou immediately dived into the sea the moment the shock wave passed. However, when he saw the war wagon, he was slightly taken aback. Such a terrifying explosion had failed to blast through the war wagon. Only the war wagon's outer shell had suffered some damage. Furthermore, the war wagon's outer shell was automatically repairing itself. Soon, it recovered to its original state. Seeing that it was impossible to blast the war wagon and the Guardian inside to death, Zhou had no choice but to open the door and rush in. This time, Zhou used the Godfiend Era Essence Energy Art. The Lost Country ring appeared on his finger before he slashed at the white cocoon. After the white cocoon was sliced open, the palm appeared again. The spatial fluctuations made everything around it still again. The blood-colored avatar's body was no exception. However, it was different this time. Although the blood-colored avatar's body couldn't move, the Godfiend Era Essence Energy Art was still flowing. This meant that Zhou could still use Essence Energy skills and other abilities. Almost without any hesitation, Zhou used Lost Country's spatial teleportation ability and teleported into the white cocoon. He wanted to see what the Guardian inside the white cocoon looked like. However, when Zhou teleported out, he realized that he hadn't teleported into the white cocoon as he wished. Instead, he appeared in front of the palm. What awaited him was a black hole that had already opened in the palm. In the next second, the game screen went black again. Zhou thought for a moment and understood what was going on. The other party was a spatial expert, and his Lost Country was only a primordial life soul. The difference in level was too great. It was already not bad that he didn't get sent into the black hole by using spatial teleportation in front of the other party. Sogu. Chapter 741. However, Zhou didn't feel discouraged. Instead, he felt that this might be an opportunity. With this Guardian around, it was equivalent to him having a spatial expert as a sparring partner. Perhaps he might have a chance to improve Lost Country further. Zhou dripped his blood to revive and entered the game to challenge the Guardian again. However, he naturally suffered a crushing defeat. However, Zhou also felt the influence of the other party's spatial powers on him. Through watching and personally experiencing the various spatial skills of the Guardian, Zhou gained a lot more insight into spatial skills. No matter how much he learned in the past, it was all theoretical knowledge. It was very rare for him to experience it personally. As Zhou died again and again, Xia Luchuan came to the East Courtyard again and told him about the battle at the peak of Forbidden City. You should know that Forbidden City is a forbidden land of our Xia family. Outsiders are not allowed to enter, Old Master Xia said. I know, but I also hope to fight him there. Xia Luchuan didn't explain further. In that case, it's decided. However, this time, you are only allowed to win. No matter what, Zhou can't leave Forbidden City again, Old Master Xia said indifferently. Xia Luchuan didn't say a word and only bowed slightly. Let's set the time to 4 days later. There are still some problems in Forbidden City that need to be dealt with first. You should return and prepare well, Old Master Xia said. Zhou was grinding when he suddenly heard his phone ring. It was a call from Wang Lu. Did you really agree to duel Xia Luchuan? Just as Zhou picked up the call, Wang Lu's voice sounded. Yes, Zhou answered. Are you going to duel with the Xia family in the imperial capital, and it's in the Forbidden City controlled by the Xia family? Did you ignore what Grandma told you? Wang Lu said anxiously. Don't worry. I have my own plans. Nothing will happen. Let's talk about it later. There's a call coming in. I'll answer it first. As Zhou spoke, he picked up another call. It was from Ouyanglan. Little one, did you really agree to duel Xia Luchuan in Forbidden City? Don't be afraid. If you're forced by the Xia family, I'll help you, Ouyanglan said. Sislan, the Xia family didn't force me. I did it willingly. Don't worry. I can handle it. Zhou was indeed touched when he heard Ouyanglan's words. Although they weren't related by blood, Ouyanglan did pay close attention to him. Little one, you're your dad's only son. We won't have another in the future. You have to think thrice before you do anything. Don't risk your life. If there's anything, tell Sis Lan. Sis Lan will help you resolve it. Ouyang Lan didn't quite believe Zhou Wen's words and was still very worried. Sis Lan, you really don't have to worry. It's not convenient to say too much over the phone, but I have the ability to protect myself. Nothing will happen. Zhou Wen was afraid that the call would be monitored, so he didn't dare tell Ouyang Lan that he had the invisibility cloak. Ouyang Lan exhorted Zhou Wen a little more before his phone rang again. He had no choice but to end the call. This time, it was Sheng's call. And Sheng clearly knew that Zhou Wen was going to duel Xia Luchuan, but he didn't persuade Zhou Wen not to duel. I'm already on my way to the imperial capital. Is there anything I need to do in advance? And Sheng asked simply. Don't come. I'll leave the imperial capital soon, Zhou Wen hurriedly said. I'll meet you outside the imperial capital, and Sheng said. Don't do it near the imperial capital. Let's meet somewhere far away. Zhou Wen knew that he couldn't stop and Sheng. All right, I'll think of a way to inform you when the time comes. And Sheng hung up after saying that. This news quickly spread in the imperial capital, but not many people outside knew about it. Anyone who knew about it felt that Zhou Wen was courting death. Ignoring the fact that Xia Luchuan was a rare genius of the Xia family, just the fact that he was fighting a member of the Xia family in their territory made people not think highly of Zhou Wen. Dugugu and Zhang Chuanqiu were in the imperial capital, so they naturally heard the news. This battle is a good opportunity to see how much that guardian can increase Scumbag's strength, Zhang Chuanqiu said with a smile. From the looks of it, your divination wasn't accurate at all. You actually let Xia Luchuan obtain the guardian, Dugugu said. Zhang Chuanqiu smiled and said, Destiny is unpredictable. Don't take my divination seriously. I'm just spouting nonsense. Then do another random divination. Who will win this time, Zhou Wen or Scumbag? Dugugu said. According to my divination, the Xia family definitely won't lose, Zhang Chuanqiu said. Dugugu glanced at Zhang Chuanqiu in disdain and returned to his room. Zhou Wen had already received Xia Luchuan's notice that there would be a battle in Forbidden City in 4 days. However, only Zhou Wen was allowed to enter. Zhou Wen had no choice but to contact Wang Lu, hoping to leave the antelope and chick with her. You hung up so quickly just now, and now you're thinking of me? Wang Lu said angrily. My stepmother called just now. Do you think I can ignore it? Zhou Wen explained. Zhou Wen, you know about the Xia family. You really shouldn't have fought Xia Luchuan. Xia Luchuan might not be famous, and he's not as famous as John, Lance, and the rest of the younger generation, but this person is definitely much more terrifying than Lance. He's someone who has truly survived countless deaths. He's different from those elites who are still in a greenhouse. Wang Lu continued. Although Xia Luchuan is known as the most foppish young master of the Xia family, his talent isn't inferior to Entien's was. My grandmother saw him when he was 6 years old. Back then, old Master Xia took him to the ancient sword tomb to play. At that time, a mythical sword happened to be born. The 6-year-old Xia Luchuan saw the battle between the mythical sword and humans and actually comprehended the mythical sword's sword technique. His talent in combat is terrifying. If he's not strong, it would be meaningless, Zhou Wen said with a smile. He just didn't want Wang Lu to worry too much. If it were anywhere else, it wouldn't be a big deal for you to fight Xia Luchuan, but that's Forbidden City. How can you fight Xia Luchuan there? Even if you win, it'll be very difficult for you to walk out, Wang Lu said with a sigh. Don't worry. If I, Zhou Wen, want to leave, no one in the Federation can stop me, Zhou Wen said firmly. Wang Lu knew that it was too late to say anything. Zhou Wen had already accepted the challenge, so it was too late to regret. 4 days quickly passed. The Xia family took the initiative to send a car to pick Zhou Wen up to Forbidden City, but Zhou Wen rejected them. He carried the log and walked towards Forbidden City. It wasn't that he didn't want to take the car, but that the car couldn't fit the log. Chapter 742. Zhou arrived in front of Forbidden City's main gate and saw many people gathered outside. They were all here to watch the battle, but because the city gate was sealed, no one could enter. The Meridian Gate was tightly closed and guarded by the Xia family. There were 4 gates in the Forbidden City, but usually only the Meridian Gate could be opened. The other 3 gates could only be opened when there was a certain opportunity. Therefore, only the Meridian Gate could be used to enter and exit the Forbidden City. Zhou, young Master Xia is already waiting for you in the city. Please enter, the Xia family guard said to Zhou. Zhou carried the log and was about to walk in when he was stopped by the guard. You can enter, but the item has to be left outside, the guard said as he pointed at the log on Zhou's shoulder. Does your Xia family take away your opponent's weapon before a duel? Zhou said indifferently. The moment Zhou said that, the onlookers immediately roared with laughter. Although they didn't believe that Zhou would really use such a huge club as a weapon, it didn't stop them from despising the Xia family's tyranny. Let him in, a middle-aged man guarding the gate said to the guard. Only then did the guards allow Zhou to carry the log into Forbidden City. Old man, is it really okay to let him in like this? If there's really something wrong with that piece of wood, like Lu Chuan said, wouldn't it be very disadvantageous for Lu Chuan? The middle-aged man said to old Master Xia, who was sitting on the city gate tower waiting to watch the battle. It's fine. This is the Forbidden City. Even if Ling Zongjing is hiding in that log, he can forget about escaping unscathed today, old Master Xia said indifferently. On a tall building far away from the Forbidden City, Shen Yuqi was looking at the situation at the Meridian Gate with a high-powered telescope. Because they couldn't enter the Forbidden City, even if they went to the Meridian Gate, they wouldn't be able to see anything. Where's Siyuan? What do you think the outcome of this battle will be? Shen Yuqi lowered his binoculars and asked Xiao Siyuan when he saw Zhou enter the Meridian Gate. I believe that regardless of the outcome today, it will probably be very difficult for Zhou to walk out of Forbidden City, Xiao Siyuan answered. Xiao Yuqi didn't comment and continued to observe the situation in the Forbidden City with the telescope. However, there was a mysterious force interfering with the Forbidden City. They could only see the part above the roof, not the specific situation inside. Zhou walked through the Meridian Gate and saw 5 white jade buildings leading to the Gate of Supreme Harmony. Xia Luchuan was standing in front of it. After passing through the Gate of Supreme Harmony, he arrived at the Hall of Supreme Harmony. However, he didn't know if the situation in Forbidden City had changed after the dimensional storms. Zhou looked around but didn't see any dimensional creatures. There's no need to look. There are no dimensional creatures in Forbidden City. You can rest assured and fight me with all your might, Xia Luchuan said. That's great. However, since it's a decisive battle at the peak of Forbidden City, let's go to a higher place to fight. I think it's quite high there. Why don't we go there? Zhou said as he pointed in the direction of the corner tower. No need to go through so much trouble. As Xia Luchuan spoke, a sword appeared in his hand. This sword's name is Ancient Pure Hook. It's a manifestation of a mythical companion beast. I believe you also have a mythical companion beast, so I won't avoid it. With that said, Xia Luchuan stabbed at Zhou with his sword. He was a straightforward person who attacked without any hesitation. The sword beam was like snow. His body and sword seemed to instantly appear in front of Zhou. It was unbelievably fast. Although Zhou was good at movement techniques, it was impossible for him to dodge such a fast sword while carrying such a heavy piece of wood. Therefore, Zhou could only draw his saber to meet it. Clang! The saber and sword clashed. Zhou's figure remained motionless, but Xia Luchuan took a few steps back. It wasn't that Zhou's strength was stronger than Xia Luchuan's, but that the piece of wood he was carrying was too heavy. It pressed down on his body so he didn't retreat. Although Xia Luchuan retreated, his figure didn't scatter. He tapped the ground with his toes and brandished his sword again. His sword technique was swift and fierce like a ghost. Zhou Wen's saber technique wasn't slow either. He held the piece of wood with one hand and brandished his saber with the other. The saber and sword constantly collided as Zhou Wen advanced step by step, gradually approaching the gate of supreme harmony. Zhou Wen wanted to give it a try at the Hall of Supreme Harmony. After all, the Hall of Supreme Harmony was the most honorable place in Forbidden City. It was most likely the peak of Forbidden City. Furthermore, there was only one Hall of Supreme Harmony, but there were 4 corner towers. If the Hall of Supreme Harmony didn't work, it wouldn't be too late for him to consider heading to the corner towers. To be able to master such a mature and steady saber technique at such a young age, this Zhou Wen is indeed extraordinary. Old Master Xia narrowed his eyes as though he was admiring a treasure. Zhou Wen once defeated John, who contracted a guardian. His strength is indeed extraordinary. Furthermore, according to our investigations, he has more than 1 or 2 mythical companion beasts on him, the middle-aged man said. The stronger he is, the better, Old Master Xia said with a smile. Zhou Wen originally hoped to fight his way to the Hall of Supreme Harmony, but Xia Luchuan clearly wouldn't be suppressed by him. Xia Luchuan's figure suddenly changed as he appeared behind Zhou Wen like a phantom and stabbed at his back. Zhou Wen carried the log and moved too slowly. He didn't have the time to turn around, but he didn't plan on turning around. He swung his saber and blocked Xia Luchuan's strike. Xia Luchuan didn't continue attacking as he looked at Zhou Wen's back and said, "The log on you is too heavy. Why don't you put it down and fight again?" Zhou Wen turned around and said to Xia Luchuan, "I'll naturally put it down when it's time to put it down." Xia Luchuan didn't say anything else. However, the pure hook sword in his hand emitted a strange glow. It was like a holy sword, making one have the urge to prostrate themselves in worship. This time, Xia Luchuan attacked again, but it wasn't that easy to deal with. When the bamboo blade and the pure hook sword met, Zhou Wen felt his hand tremble as he involuntarily took a few steps back. The bamboo blade nearly flew out of his hand. The pure hook sword is known as the noble and unparalleled sword. It can give me mythical power, Xia Luchuan said as he brandished his sword again. With a thought from Zhou Wen, Dr. Darkness had already transformed into a soul and possessed him. Zhou Wen brandished his saber again to meet it. Although he was still forced back by the pure hook sword, he wasn't as pathetic as before. If you have any abilities, just use them all. There's no need to hide them, Zhou Wen said to Xia Luchuan as he held his saber. I'll do as you say. Xia Luchuan beckoned with his left hand and another sword appeared in his hand. This sword was different from the pure hook sword. It was a small sword that was only about 60 centimeters long. It wasn't as gorgeous as the pure hook sword, and it seemed to carry a sinister aura. The sword's name is Evil Slaying. It's also a manifestation of a mythical companion beast. After so many years of cultivation, most of my techniques are on these 2 swords, Xia Luchuan said as he looked at the sword in his hand in a daze. Chapter 743. With both swords in hand, Zhou Wen felt that Xia Luchuan's aura seemed to have changed. His expression couldn't help but turn solemn. The sword in Xia Luchuan's hand finally moved, but he didn't move. The evil-slaying sword flew over and stabbed in front of Zhou Wen in a flash, as though it was about to pierce through his right eye. Zhou Wen brandished his saber and slashed, sending the evil-slaying sword flying. However, Xia Luchuan and his pure hook sword arrived in front of Zhou Wen again. Bamboo blade had just swung over, so he didn't have time to block it. Zhou Wen suddenly crouched down and dodged the pure hook sword stab. At the same time, the log smashed at Xia Luchuan's head. Suddenly, Xia Luchuan's figure flashed and vanished in front of Zhou Wen. As for the pure hook sword, it turned from a stab to a slash that slashed at Zhou Wen's neck. However, Xia Luchuan somehow arrived beside the evil-slaying sword. He grabbed it with one hand and stabbed at Zhou Wen's back. Zhou Wen brandished his saber to parry the pure hook sword, but he had no time to defend against the evil-slaying sword on his back. Dang! A scalpel appeared behind Zhou Wen, blocking the evil-slaying sword's attack. Dr. Darkness separated from Zhou Wen's body. As for Zhou Wen, he switched to the Ancient Sovereign Sutra and fused with the fate-defying Ancient Sovereign. His body became filled with energy. At the same time, he used the Demon Dragon True Body skill, allowing him to possess the combat strength of a mythical creature for a short period of time. He forcefully sent the Pure Hook sword flying. After sending the Pure Hook flying, Zhou Wen turned around and slashed at Xia Luchuan. Xia Luchuan's expression didn't change as he continued thrusting the evil-slaying sword at Zhou Wen. It was as though he didn't see Dr. Darkness' scalpel and Zhou Wen's bamboo blade. If the two of them continued stabbing, Zhou Wen's chest would be pierced by the evil-slaying sword the moment the scalpel and bamboo blade hit Xia Luchuan. Zhou Wen changed his move and used bamboo blade to block the evil-slaying sword, but Xia Luchuan's figure vanished. He appeared beside the Pure Hook sword that had been sent flying and slashed down with it. Xia Luchuan's figure changed like magic. One moment, he appeared beside the evil-slaying sword, and the next moment, he appeared beside the Pure Hook sword. This kind of teleportation wasn't as simple as speed. It was somewhat similar to the Lost Nations teleportation, but there were no restrictions on its usage. However, it wasn't as free as teleportation. It could be seen that Xia Luchuan could only move between the two swords. Even so, it was already difficult for Zhou Wen to deal with him. Xia Luchuan used two swords and constantly shifted back and forth like a ghost. It made Zhou Wen feel like it was even more strenuous than fighting three mythical opponents at the same time. The most uncomfortable thing was that he couldn't attack Xia Luchuan because Xia Luchuan could teleport to the side of another sword at any time. If he attacked, he wouldn't be able to injure Xia Luchuan, but he would be injured by Xia Luchuan. Zhou Wen and Dr. Darkness joined forces, but they were still suppressed by Xia Luchuan. They had no chance of charging towards the Gate of Supreme Harmony. If I wasn't carrying such a big guy, I wouldn't be so passive. Zhou Wen was best at movement technique. Due to the blockhead, he couldn't use his movement techniques, making it extremely difficult for him to fight. Liuchuan's sword escape technique is getting better, the middle-aged man praised. Sword escape requires talent. Furthermore, it's easy to learn but difficult to master. Little Chuan likes such a technique, but there's no need for it. If you have such time, you might as well spend more effort on guardians, Old Master Xia said indifferently. Although Old Master Xia didn't approve of Xia Luchuan spending all his time on sword escape, Zhou Wen was depressed by the suppression of sword escape. This sword escape technique was like an illusion. Under Xia Luchuan's use, it was even more unpredictable, leaving one dazzled. Zhou Wen thought to himself, this can't continue. I've already entered Forbidden City, so there's no need to fight him. I should quickly place the blockhead on the Hall of Supreme Harmony and give it a try. Without any hesitation, Zhou Wen summoned the Great Might Vajra Bull. The moment the Great Might Vajra Bull appeared, it shook the bell on its neck. When the soul suppression bell rang, Xia Luchuan immediately felt dizzy. The two swords fell from the sky with him. Zhou Wen took this opportunity to have Dr. Darkness possess him again and rush towards the Gate of Supreme Harmony. However, he had only taken a few steps when a sword beam flashed. Zhou Wen tilted his head and dodged. He saw the evil-slaying sword fly past his ear. As for Xia Luchuan, he instantly moved to the side of the evil-slaying sword and slashed at Zhou Wen's face. Zhou Wen brandished his saber to meet it, clashing with Xia Luchuan's evil-slaying sword several times. Xia Luchuan's sword technique was unpredictable, so Zhou Wen couldn't gain any advantage. The Great Might Vajra Bull turned around to help Zhou Wen, but just as it turned around, Xia Luchuan appeared behind it like a phantom. He held the Pure Hook sword and stabbed it into the Great Might Vajra Bull's butt. Moo! The Great Might Vajra Bull's pupils constricted as it suddenly raised its hind hooves and kicked Xia Luchuan. However, Xia Luchuan waved his hand and threw the pure hook sword at Zhou. At the same time, he returned to the evil-slaying sword's side and held it to continue fighting Zhou. The entire process was like a magic show. If it wasn't for the great Might Vajra Bull's powerful physique, any ordinary person would have been killed by Xia Luchuan. As Zhou blocked the evil-slaying sword, he summoned the Golden Overlord sword. However, he didn't have the spare hands to use the Golden Overlord sword again. All he could do was let the Golden Overlord sword attack in its original form. The great Might Vajra Bull used its life soul and transformed into a 1,000-armed, bull-headed form. Golden beams shot out from its palm in a bid to kill Xia Luchuan. However, Xia Luchuan and his two swords were one. He constantly teleported to fight, making it even more difficult to deal with than fighting three people at the same time. Zhou still couldn't gain an advantage even with the great Might Vajra Bull and the Golden Overlord sword. Why are you practicing swordplay? Why don't you become a magician? Zhou was somewhat depressed. He originally didn't want to be too ostentatious, but now that he couldn't escape Xia Luchuan, he had no choice but to think of other solutions. Should I get Tyrant Behemoth to fight? The first thing Zhou considered was Tyrant Behemoth. It had already appeared on the rankings, so it didn't matter much if it was exposed. Carrying such a heavy log, Zhou really couldn't escape Xia Luchuan. Without any hesitation, he summoned Tyrant Behemoth. Boom! Tyrant Behemoth landed on the ground out of thin air, causing the ground to tremble. Tyrant Behemoth? It's actually Zhou companion beast? Old Master Xia and the middle-aged man revealed looks of surprise. Many people were investigating whose companion beast Tyrant Behemoth was. Most people believed that Tyrant Behemoth was the companion beast of an expert in the West District, but they never expected it to be in Zhou hands. Outside Forbidden City, there was someone who was even more surprised than Old Master Xia and company. It was Zhang Chuanxiu. Zhang Chuanxiu used his heavenly eye and saw Tyrant Behemoth in Forbidden City. Furthermore, he knew very well that the Tyrant Behemoth companion egg originally belonged to the Zhang family, but it had been stolen by a traitor. Sogu. Chapter 744. After Tyrant Behemoth appeared, it directly activated absolute strength. Space distorted as pure hook and evil-slaying sword flew towards Tyrant Behemoth. Although Xia Luchuan had tried his best to escape this situation, Tyrant Behemoth's absolute strength was just too powerful. The two mythical swords couldn't escape as they flew towards Tyrant Behemoth with their swords. Zhou didn't stop. Without looking at the outcome, he ran towards the gate of Supreme Harmony. Carrying the log, Zhou couldn't run fast. Before he reached the gate of Supreme Harmony, he suddenly heard a terrifying sound. The shock wave broke through the sound barrier, producing a terrifying sonic boom. Zhou turned his head and saw Xia Luchuan floating in midair. He wore a strange black armor. The armor looked like some kind of black jade that emitted a mysterious black light. Xia Luchuan held pure hook, an evil slaying in front of him, and blocked Tyrant Behemoth's punch without being sent flying. That's a guardian. Zhou could tell that the armor was somewhat strange. Its aura didn't resemble a companion beast, but it resembled a guardian. Furthermore, Xia Luchuan was able to block Tyrant Behemoth in its absolute strength state. This wasn't something ordinary companion beast armor could do. Xia Luchuan wasn't at a disadvantage in his battle with Tyrant Behemoth. The two swords in his hands crisscrossed as he fought Tyrant Behemoth. Seeing that Xia Luchuan didn't have the upper hand, Zhou continued running towards the gate of Supreme Harmony. He had to escape the log first. Otherwise, even if the guardian was in front of him, he wouldn't be able to kill it with such a log. Zhou rushed past the gate of Supreme Harmony, but he couldn't help but stop. This was because there were many people standing in the empty space after he passed the gate of Supreme Harmony. There were probably more than 10,000 of them. More than 10,000 people stood in a square formation on the empty space. Each of them held a sword in their hand, but no one spoke. It was so quiet that there was no sound at all. Upon seeing Zhou Wen arrive, the gazes of the 10,000 people turned to look at him. At the front of the square formation stood a black-robed woman. It was none other than Xia Xianyue, whom Zhou Wen knew. "Zhou Wen, why are you here instead of fighting Xia Luchuan?" Xia Xianyue asked Zhou Wen. "Ahem, I'm just taking a stroll. It's rare for me to come to the legendary Forbidden City. I wish to see the legendary Hall of Supreme Harmony," Zhou Wen said with a light cough. "You should go back and fight. Forbidden City isn't a place where outsiders can barge in as they please," Xia Xianyue said. "Since I'm already here, let me have a look." Naturally, Zhou Wen refused to retreat just like that. Although the Xia family had their guard up against him, he still had to give it a try at the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Zhou Wen had only taken 2 steps forward when Xia Xianyue raised the ancient sword in her hand. The 10,000 people raised the swords in their hands at the same time. In an instant, countless sword beams soared into the sky and gathered towards the ancient sword in Xia Xianyue's hand. With the augmentation of more than 10,000 ancient swords, the sword beam produced by the ancient sword in Xia Xianyue's hand was unimaginably terrifying. Even the golden overlord sword paled in comparison to it. Zhou Wen could roughly tell that the ancient sword in Xia Xianyue's hand might have the same effect as the golden harp. They could both gather a certain kind of power. The difference was that the golden harp resonated with sound waves, while the ancient sword in Xia Xianyue's hand could condense the sword beams of other sword-type companion beasts. Every sword in the sword formation of more than 10,000 people was probably an epic companion beast. With the augmentation of more than 10,000 sword beams, coupled with the fact that the ancient sword itself might be at the mythical stage, the might of the sword was probably not inferior to a top mythical one. "Zhou Wen, it's best you return to the front and fight Xia Luchuan," Xia Xianyue said to Zhou Wen. "What if I insist on touring Forbidden City?" Zhou Wen walked towards the sword formation step by step. Xia Xianyue brandished her sword and slashed. A terrifying sword beam poured down like a heavenly river. It was difficult for Zhou Wen to dodge, so he could only use the Golden Overlord sword's golden sword beam to meet it. The golden sword beam was indestructible. In the beginning, it did slice through the heavenly river-like sword beam, but the sword beam seemed to pour down endlessly. Soon, it drowned the golden sword beam. Xia Xianyue didn't really slash down. She retracted the ancient sword in her hand, and the sword beam circled back like a swimming dragon, returning to the sword formation. "Please return," Xia Xianyue said expressionlessly. With a thought, Zhou Wen turned around and left the gate of Supreme Harmony. The 10,000-person sword formation was too powerful. It would probably take him a lot of time to break through it. Zhou Wen planned on giving it a try on the unguarded corner tower to avoid wasting time. When Xia Luchuan saw Zhou Wen come out, he had no intention of attacking him. He continued fighting Tyrant Behemoth. When Tyrant Behemoth used absolute strength, it could only fight Xia Luchuan to a draw. Once the time limit of absolute strength passed, it probably wouldn't be Xia Luchuan's match. Zhou Wen rushed towards the corner tower and arrived in front of it. Only then did he jump up. He first jumped onto the city wall before jumping to the top of the corner tower. It wasn't that he didn't want to jump up in one go, but that the log was too heavy. He couldn't jump up in one go. Zhou Wen placed the log on the top of the corner tower and realized that there was no reaction at all. He tried to release the log and the word "slave" on his forehead immediately appeared. "Isn't it here?" Zhou Wen was somewhat disappointed as he carried the log down the corner tower. He knew that he could only attempt the myriad sword formation led by Xia Xianyue this time. He reckoned that the peak of Forbidden City was most likely the top of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. After all the trouble, there wasn't much time left for absolute strength. He estimated that there were only about 10 minutes left. Xia Luchuan clearly wanted to defeat Tyrant Behemoth first, so he wasn't in a hurry to chase after Zhou Wen. Zhou passed through the gate of Supreme Harmony again, and could already see the Hall of Supreme Harmony in front of him. However, with the myriad sword formation in the way, it was impossible to pass without cracking the sword formation. The might of the myriad sword formation is too powerful. Among my companion beasts, I'm afraid only Torch Dragon's bright torch vision world can withstand it. Truth listener, shattering 2 earrings might give me the strength to fight, but it's not convenient to expose either of them. As Zhou was thinking about how to crack the sword formation, he seemed to think of something as his eyes suddenly lit up. Zhou, why are you back? Xia Xianyue asked with a frown when she saw Zhou running over again. Xia Luchuan isn't my match. There's no point in fighting him. I still want to stroll around the Hall of Supreme Harmony, Zhou said as he walked toward Xia Xianyue. Without any hesitation, Xia Xianyue raised her sword again as the sword formation reappeared. A terrifying sword beam emitted a terrifying might that made one's scalp tingle from afar. With a thought, Zhou summoned a companion beast. This companion beast wasn't Torch Dragon or Truth Listener, nor was it demonic neonate. Instead, it was a beautiful girl. She was unbelievably beautiful. She had long hair that made all women envious. Her eyes were extremely charming, as though one look at them would make one unable to move their eyes away. The Xia family members in the myriad sword formation couldn't help but look at the beautiful girl. Chapter 745. Previously, Medusa had caused a stir on the Peninsula of Gods, letting the entire Federation know of Medusa's existence. However, in the various videos and images they had seen, Medusa was a snake-haired demoness. Not many people had seen the young Medusa. Furthermore, ever since Medusa was killed, no new Medusa had passed through the spatial rift and arrived at the cursed demon palace. Therefore, the members of the Xia family didn't know the young Medusa. If they did, they definitely wouldn't dare look at the young Medusa, much less look into her eyes. Unlike the snake-haired demoness, the young Medusa didn't have the ability to petrify others. Her eyes of enticement needed others to see her eyes before they could take effect. At that moment, more than 10,000 Xia family members saw the young Medusa's eyes. Immediately, their bodies turned petrified as they turned pale with fright. Xia Xuanyue's expression changed drastically as she immediately realized the problem. She closed her eyes and brandished her sword at the young Medusa. However, because many owners of epic swords saw the young Medusa's eyes, their bodies slowly petrified. They couldn't circulate their essence energy, nor could they use the epic swords in their hands to cooperate with Xia Xianyue. This greatly reduced the might of Xia Xuanyue's sword beams. Zhou held the Golden Overlord's sword and slashed out a sword beam to resist Xia Xuanyue's sword beam. The ancient sword in Xia Xuanyue's hand was also transformed from a mythical companion beast. It wasn't inferior to the Golden Overlord sword, but the Golden Overlord sword's attributes were too domineering. When the sword beams collided, the ancient sword beam shattered after losing the augmentation of the 10,000 sword. The Golden Overlord sword's sword beam continued slashing at Xia Xianyue. Xia Xianyue closed her eyes and moved, dodging the golden sword beam. At the same time, she brandished her sword and attacked Zhou. Her movement technique was the path to snatching heaven that Zhou had seen before. Back then, Zhou had fought with Xia Xianyue on the path to snatching heaven that gave transcendent flying immortal a chance to advance to the mythical stage. In that battle, Xia Xianyue had also comprehended the profundities of the path to snatching heaven, allowing it to advance to the mythical stage. Now, Xia Xuanyue's path to snatching heaven had become even more mature. It had the boldness of snatching the path to snatching heaven. Just her movement technique alone gave others immense pressure. Zhou carried the log, so he couldn't use transcendent flying immortal to compete with Xia Xuanyue's path to snatching heaven. The Golden Overlord sword was also somewhat clumsy, making it unsuitable for fighting Xia Xianyue. Zhou threw the Golden Overlord sword out and let it attack on its own. He drew his bamboo blade and faced Xia Xuanyue's sword. Medusa retreated to the side under Zhou Wen's control. Her combat strength was very weak. Xia Xuanyue's sword beam could probably kill her, so she wasn't suitable to participate in the battle. However, Zhou Wen couldn't summon her back because the eyes of enticement couldn't permanently petrify people. They needed to see her to be petrified. If Zhou Wen unsummoned her, those people would recover from their petrified state after a while. Although they were both petrification skills, the young Medusa's skill was Eyes of Temptation, which was different in nature from Eyes of Petrification. Previously, when Zhou Wen fought Medusa, Truth Listener's evil nullification could restrain the snake-haired demoness Eyes of Petrification, but it couldn't restrain the Eyes of Enticement because the two were different in nature. Xia Xianwei believed that Zhou Wen had killed more than 10,000 swordsmen and felt grief in her heart. The ancient sword in her hand didn't show any mercy as she slashed at Zhou Wen again and again with the Path to Snatching Heaven movement technique. Although our Xia family is big, among the younger generation, only Lu Chuan and little Yu are promising. To be able to cultivate the Path to Snatching Heaven movement technique to such a level, I'm afraid Lu Chuan wouldn't have been able to do it at her age, right? The middle-aged man sighed. A strange glint flashed in old Master Xia's eyes as he said indifferently, "Little Yu's talent is very good, but unfortunately, she's a girl. She ultimately can't inherit our Xia family's business." The middle-aged man said, however, "It's a great blessing for our Xia family that little Yu can assist Lu Chuan in the future." Zhang Chuanxiu was also paying attention to the battle in Forbidden City. When he saw Xia Xuanyue's movement technique, he couldn't help but praise, "Good movement technique. Dugu, your movement technique is only SOSO, right? Her movement technique isn't inferior to mine." Dugu nodded. Dugu couldn't see the situation in Forbidden City himself, but when Zhou Wen entered the city, he had already secretly released some Gu to sneak in. Using the information transmitted by the Gu, he also knew the situation in Forbidden City. Shin Yuqi and the other members of the Bureau had been using binoculars to observe the situation in Forbidden City, but there was a mysterious force in Forbidden City. Ordinary binoculars couldn't see in at all. They could only occasionally see terrifying sword beams shoot out, but nothing else. Zhou Wen knew the Path to Snatching Heaven movement technique rather well. Although he couldn't dodge, the bamboo blade in his hand blocked Xia Xuanyue's sword time and time again. As he fought, he retreated in the direction of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. This Zhou Wen is really impressive. He can actually block such a powerful movement technique and sword technique while carrying such a heavy piece of wood, Dugu praised. Don't you think that Zhou Wen seems to know Xia Xuanyue's movement technique very well? It looks like he can predict the future, Zhang Chuanxiu said with narrowed eyes. Is it a special ability? I heard that there's a girl in the Ultimate Family clan who possesses the Eye of Odin and can see through everything, Dugu said after some thought. It doesn't seem like it. I think it's more like Zhou Wen knows Xia Xuanyue's movement technique very well, Zhang Chuanxiu said. You mean that Zhou Wen and Xia Xianyue have an affair? Dugu said frankly. He wasn't like Zhang Chuanxiu who liked to speak half-truth. He had always been very straightforward. I only know that Zhou Wen definitely knows Xia Xuanyue's movement technique very well. I don't know if there's an affair, Zhang Chuanxiu said with a shrug. Old Master Xia and the middle-aged man frowned as well. Clearly, they had the same opinion as Zhang Chuanxiu. Xia Xuanyue's powerful Path to Snatching Heaven movement technique was actually blocked by Zhou Wen's saber. It was as though he had predicted the future. This was definitely not something that could be explained simply by having powerful saber technique. Little Yu previously represented our Xia family to Luoyang to be a witness for Zhou Wen. Perhaps she interacted with Zhou Wen at that time. Perhaps she fought Zhou Wen before. It's unlikely that she deliberately leaked the Path to Snatching Heaven movement technique, the middle-aged man said. Zhou Wen's understanding of the path to snatching heaven movement technique isn't as simple as fighting it, Old Master Xia said indifferently. Ah Cheng, go and settle this matter. What about Lu Chuan? The middle-aged man, Ah Cheng, was somewhat hesitant. I've given him too much time, Old Master Xia said expressionlessly. I know what to do. Ah Cheng bowed slightly before jumping down the city gate tower and walking towards the gate of supreme harmony. Xia Luchuan, who was fighting Tyrant Behemoth, saw Ah Cheng come down and his expression changed slightly. Chapter 746. Uncle Cheng, I can handle it myself. You don't have to do anything, Xia Luchuan said. Sorry, the old master can't wait any longer. As Ah Cheng spoke, he continued walking towards the gate of supreme harmony. Soon, he passed through it and saw Zhou Wen fighting Xia Xianyue. Little you, take your leave. Leave this to me, Ah Cheng said. Uncle Cheng, I can handle it myself, Xia Xianyue answered. This is the old master's order, Ah Cheng said. When Xia Xianyue heard the words old master, she had no choice but to retreat from the battle and come to Ah Cheng's side. Ah Cheng extended his hand and beckoned. A strange yellow paper talisman appeared in his hand. The moment the yellow paper talisman appeared, golden runes lit up on the ground in front of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Instantly, the huge space was enveloped in golden light. Zhou Wen immediately felt as though he had fallen into a huge vortex. The essence energy in his body was sucked out and rapidly flowed into the vortex. It wasn't just Zhou Wen. Even the companion beasts he summoned were the same. The Golden Overlord sword and Medusa's essence energy were also rapidly draining. The petrified Xia family disciples and their epic companion beast swords were the same. They didn't receive any additional care. Zhou Wen hurriedly unsummoned Medusa and the Golden Overlord sword. At the same time, he switched his essence energy art to a Tao Sutra. The heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder also appeared in his consciousness. Such an array formation was similar to explosive Fiend Man's time bomb. They needed to be prepared in advance. Clearly, the Xia family was very careful and had long prepared everything. Even if Xia Luchuan couldn't win, he would still kill Zhou Wen. When the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder appeared, Zhou Wen immediately felt the essence energy in his body stop leaking. With a thought, he unsummoned Tyrant Behemoth, who was fighting Xia Luchuan. Tyrant Behemoth's absolute strength was almost up. There was no need to continue fighting. We agreed on a duel. Isn't your Xia family too shameless by doing this? Zhou Wen pretended to be shocked as he struggled to retreat. Ah Cheng said indifferently, You were the one who didn't fight. How can you blame our Xia family for not keeping our promise? Alright, you win. I'll admit defeat, alright? Stop your formation. Zhou Wen shouted as he retreated. He was already very close to the Hall of Supreme Harmony, less than 50 meters away. Any closer and he would be able to jump to the top of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. However, Zhou Wen didn't know if the Hall of Supreme Harmony was the peak of Forbidden City or if it could free him from this log. It's too late, Ah Cheng said. It's easy for you to take my life, but don't tell me you don't even want the lives of these 10,000 Xia family members? Zhou Wen said as he pointed at the petrified Xia family members. As Medusa was unsummoned by Zhou Wen, their petrified bodies were gradually recovering. Xia Xianyue couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief when she saw that they weren't dead. She had imagined that Zhou Wen had killed those people and was extremely furious. Only now did she realize that Zhou Wen hadn't really killed them. However, just like Zhou Wen, they were trapped in the array formation. Furthermore, they didn't have the protection of the highest heaven-opening scripture. The array formation constantly devoured their essence energy. Before the petrification on their bodies completely faded, their essence energy was almost drained dry. Uncle Cheng, stop. If this continues, they will all die, Xia Luchuan said as he walked over. Ah Cheng shook his head. Before we finish Zhou Wen, the array can't be closed. Zhou Wen was still retreating. He had already retreated to the edge of the array, but the barrier formed by the edge of the array blocked his path. The thin layer of golden light was like an iron wall. Zhou slammed into it a few times with all his might, but he couldn't break through it. Furthermore, as long as his essence energy struck the barrier, it would immediately be absorbed by the barrier, making its defense even stronger. Zhou was slightly better. His essence energy wasn't really sucked away. However, the Xia family members were different. They were almost sucked dry. Some of them had already removed their petrification and rushed to the edge of the array. However, just like Zhou, they couldn't break through the barrier no matter how hard they tried. Soon, their essence energy was sucked dry. After their essence energy was sucked dry, the array didn't let them off. Their essence, vitality, and spirit were also extracted after their essence energy was depleted. Their bodies were aging at a discernible speed, making them look extremely terrifying. Many of the Xia family disciples screamed in terror as they struggled to break out of the hellish formation. Xia Xuanyue's expression was complicated. She never expected to see such a scene. Furthermore, she was partly the reason why these people had ended up in such a state. If it wasn't for the fact that she couldn't stop Zhou, Cheng wouldn't have taken action. More than 10,000 Xia family members wouldn't have been trapped in the array. Uncle Cheng, I'm sorry. Xia Xianyue gritted her teeth and suddenly brandished her sword, stabbing at the yellow talisman floating in front of Cheng. Cheng never expected Xia Xianyue, who was beside him, to attack. He was caught off guard and the yellow talisman was pierced by the sword beam. As the yellow talisman shattered, the golden light of the array immediately shattered. The barrier of light vanished and the golden runes on the ground dimmed. Little you. Cheng's expression changed drastically. He wasn't worried that the array would be broken and release Zhou, but for another reason. Xia Luchuan was also alarmed. He turned his head to look in the direction of the city gate and his body immediately trembled. Old Master Xia, who had been watching the battle from the top of the city gate, had vanished. When he turned around, he realized that Old Master Xia was already standing in front of the Hall of Supreme Harmony with his hands behind his back. Zhou was about to forcefully break through the barrier of light when he realized that it had suddenly vanished. Just as he was overjoyed and about to rush up the Hall of Supreme Harmony, a figure appeared in front of the Hall of Supreme Harmony as though it had teleported. It stood at the end of the steps and blocked his path. Zhou took a careful look and saw that the person was muscular. He was probably about 2 meters tall and his hair was completely white. He looked like an old man, but his aura was extremely powerful. He didn't look like an old man at all. Zhou's heart palpitated as though he sensed an extremely dangerous aura. He couldn't help but feel a chill. Who allowed you to destroy the array? Old Master Xia didn't look at Zhou. Instead, his gaze landed on Xia Xianyue. Old Master Xianyue didn't do it on purpose. She just couldn't bear to see the Xia family's disciples die. Xia Luchuan hurriedly pulled Xia Xianyue to kneel down and admit his mistake. Is that so? Old Master Xia expressionlessly glanced at the Xia family disciples who had been sucked dry of their essence energy and had luckily escaped. Suddenly, Old Master Xia reached out and grabbed. Xia Xuanyue's body seemed to be grabbed by an invisible hand as she was instantly pulled in front of Old Master Xia and his son. Old Master Xia grabbed her head. On the ground, the golden runes appeared once more. The formation was activated once more, trapping everyone within it once more. Chapter 747. The first to bear the brunt were the Xia family disciples. Their essence energy was already exhausted, and their essence, vitality, and spirit were overdrawn. When the array sucked them in, blood immediately gushed out of their bodies. Many people fell to the ground. Apart from Zhou and Old Master Xia, even Xia Xuanyue's essence energy began to drain. Old Master, let Xianyue off. She won't make the same mistake again, Xia Luchuan pleaded. Old Master Xia grabbed Xia Xuanyue's head with one hand, but Xia Xianyue couldn't move at all. Even the mythical sword in her hand fell to the ground as her eyes were filled with fear. Old Master Xia said indifferently, "Don't think that you can do whatever you want just because you were born in the Xia family. The world is cold and heartless. Any mistake can lead to the downfall of a family. As the future leader of the Xia family, if you don't even understand this, you don't have the right to lead the Xia family. Please give Xianyue another chance." Xia Luchuan kowtowed heavily to the ground. "Rules are rules. A volcano won't stop erupting because of your prayers. Time won't stop passing because of your pity. Rules are emotionless and the most straightforward. From the looks of it, you still don't understand what kind of cruel world you will face as the future leader of the Xia family." Old Master Xia had no intention of letting Xia Xianyue off. Xia Xuanyue's essence energy was almost drained. Xia Liuchuan's body trembled as he suddenly raised his head. The evil-slaying sword in his hand erupted with immense power as he stabbed at the golden light of the array. Luchuan. Ah Cheng's expression turned even uglier. He wanted to stop Xia Luchuan, but it was already too late. Clang! The power of the evil-slaying sword and the augmentation of Xia Liuchuan's guardian armor failed to slice through the array's barrier. Xia Luchuan was alarmed, but in the next second, the pure hook sword in his other hand slashed forward. The two swords crazily slashed at the array, but they only caused the golden barrier to sway. They failed to slice through it. Instead, his essence energy was absorbed by the array, making the golden light of the barrier even more terrifying. "Little Chuan, I dote on you the most. Are you going to betray me now?" Old Master Xia asked Xia Luchuan coldly. "I only hope that you can let Xianyue off. She's my sister." Xia Liuchuan's two swords didn't stop as he continued slashing at the barrier. "It seems that I need to reconsider the issue of the Xia family's successor." A cold light flashed in Master Xia's eyes and he clenched his fist. Suddenly, a sword beam cleaved over. Old Master Xia raised his hand and grabbed it. The golden sword beam was sucked into his palm and instantly vanished. Instead, Old Master Xia's yuan qi became even more boundless. At the same time, a suction force pulled Xia Xianyue out. It was Zhou Wen's demonic astral wheel. "You people from big clans really know how to play. You can even say that you killed your own descendants in such a dignified manner. Today I've really learned something new." Zhou Wen pulled Xia Xianyue to his side, but she wasn't in a good state. Her primordial energy was constantly draining, and she was about to be drained. Zhou Wen summoned the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder. The scripture floated above his head and emitted an invisible force that blocked the suction force of the array, preventing the essence energy in this small area from being sucked into the array. To be able to withstand the power of the heaven and earth origin opening array, your talent and the essence energy art you cultivate, as well as your life providence and life soul, are indeed extraordinary. Old Master Xia didn't mind the sarcasm in Zhou Wen's words at all. All he did was stare at the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder above Zhou Wen's head and ask, "That's your life soul, right? What's its name?" "Why should I tell an old pervert like you?" Zhou Wen said with a smile. "It's fine. Even if you don't tell me, I'll soon know," Old Master Xia said as he spread out his palm. As Old Master Xia spoke, he opened his palm and all the essence energy in the heaven and earth origin returning array gathered towards his palm. Instantly, tragic cries sounded. Many of the Xia family members who were struggling to hold on spat out blood and died. Their bodies were instantly sucked dry as they lost all their essence, vitality, and spirit. As for Old Master Xia, after absorbing so much essence energy, his aura became extremely terrifying. The essence energy that seeped out of his body seemed to condense into something corporeal as it swayed on his body. The powerful essence energy made his skin look transparent. Be it Xia Luchuan and Ah Cheng outside the heaven and earth origin opening array, or Zhou Wen and Xia Xianyue inside the array, They all felt a chill run down their spines. It wasn't that they had never seen dead people, but more than 10,000 epic experts had died so tragically. Furthermore, they were members of the Xia family. They had never seen anyone so crazy. Old Master, why are you doing this? This is destroying the Xia family. Xia Xianyue really couldn't understand why Old Master Xia would do this. Even among the 6 families, there weren't many epic experts who could gather so many epic experts. Furthermore, they had been nurtured by Old Master Xia himself. Now they had been killed by him with his own hand. Xia Xianyue couldn't understand why. With me around, the Xia family will never be destroyed. What's a mere 10,000 epic experts? I spent so much money to nurture them. They were originally only used as a stepping stone for me to advance to the mythical stage. Now that their mission has been completed, it's a worthy death. The essence energy on Old Master Xia's body was as terrifying as a volcanic eruption. Furthermore, his body seemed to be turning younger. Even his white hair was gradually turning black. Advance to the mythical stage? Xia Xianyue couldn't understand. Could so many people be sacrificed to advance to the mythical stage? Furthermore, although most of the 10,000 epic experts didn't have the same surname, many of them were blood relatives of the Xia family. If you don't enter the mythical stage, you will ultimately be mortal. No matter how powerful you are, there will be a day when you die. Only by advancing to the mythical stage can you break the shackles of life like those dimensional creatures and become a higher-level life form. Unfortunately, the human body is too weak and the talent is too poor. Even a genius like me can't rely on my own strength to advance to the mythical stage. Old Master Xia explained indifferently, I've studied many essence energy arts and combined them with the great Emperor's Sutra passed down in my Xia family. I've finally found a path to advance to the mythical stage. It's to gather sand into a tower and refine stone into gold. I'll gather the bloodlines, talent, life providences, and life souls of many geniuses into one body, allowing me to break through the limits of humans and advance to the mythical stage. This is the only path I can take at present. Zhouwen was dumbfounded when he heard that. He finally knew why the Xia family had secretly attacked so many genius youth. It turned out that everything was the handiwork of Old Master Xia. Zhouwen originally imagined that Wang Mingyuan's method of advancing to the mythical stage was already very ruthless, but compared to Old Master Xia's method, Wang Mingyuan's advancement method was as holy as an angel. Chapter 748. You've killed so many people. What's the difference between you and a devil like Jing Daoxian? Aren't you afraid that the other 5 families of the Federation will join forces to attack you? Zhouwen said. Old Master Xia said with a sneer, You killed these people. What has it got to do with me? I'll naturally kill you to avenge them. And you will also become an important stepping stone for me to advance to the mythical stage. With that said, Old Master Xia extended his hand and grabbed at Zhouwen and Xia Xianyue. At the same time, he continued, As a member of the Xia family, you should contribute to the Xia family. Return me your bloodline talent. A terrifying suction force was produced as Xia Xianyue and Zhouwen involuntarily pulled towards Old Master Xia. This was the first time Zhouwen had seen a human use such terrifying strength. His strength couldn't withstand the suction force. Even with the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder, he moved towards Old Master Xia. His feet left 2 marks on the stone slabs on the ground. Xia Xianyue had expended too much essence energy and was in an even worse state. Her body had already flown up. Zhouwen put down the log with one hand and stabbed it into the ground. With the other hand, he grabbed Xia Xianyue and finally stopped with the block of wood. The enemy of an enemy was a friend. Now, Xia Luchuan and Xia Xianyue were probably about to completely fall out with Old Master Xia. Perhaps he could use their strength later. Although Xia Xianyue no longer had any combat strength, Xia Luchuan was still outside. Furthermore, he had a guardian with him. Perhaps he could use his strength to rush out of the heaven and earth origin returning array. Otherwise, any companion beast's essence energy would be sucked away in this array. The more companion beasts he summoned, the stronger the augmentation old Master Xia received. He had to rush out first. I wonder how many geniuses' life providences and life souls that old freak has absorbed. He has just absorbed the essence energy and life essence of more than 10,000 epic experts. His strength is unfathomable. It's said that even a vicious tiger doesn't eat its cubs. This old freak even wants to devour his own descendant. Why doesn't the heavens strike him dead with lightning? Zhou placed Xia Xianyue behind the log and got her to hug it. He held the golden overlord's sword and slashed out sword beams at the old pervert, hoping to temporarily stop his suction force so that he could carry the log and rush out of the heaven and earth origin returning array. However, the golden sword aura that Zhou slashed out was sucked away by the old pervert. Not only did it fail to injure him, but it even became a tonic for him. I don't believe it. Can you absorb everything? Zhou summoned the great Might Vajra Bull and got it to ring the soul suppression bell. However, the soul suppression bell's chimes failed to shake old Master Xia's soul. It failed to make him dizzy at all. Instead, the great Might Vajra Bull's body was too large. The power of the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder couldn't envelop it. Its essence energy rapidly dissipated as its body moved towards old Master Xia's palm. The great Might Vajra Bull struggled with all its might, but it couldn't stop itself from sliding towards old Master Xia. Its 4 hooves sank into the stone slabs, but it still slid towards old Master Xia, scaring the great Might Vajra Bull into mooing. Zhou hurriedly summoned it back and didn't dare let it out again. Don't use companion beast. He has absorbed countless life providences and life souls. He can absorb any kind of essence energy for his own use. Companion beasts are condensed from essence energy. The power of any companion beast will help him. Xia Luchuan warned Zhou loudly from outside. How do I rush out without companion beast? Zhou hurriedly asked. Since you insist on dying, then you can come in with me. Old Master Xia snorted coldly. Xia Luchuan had already switched to using his fists to strike the array's barrier of light. At that moment, he suddenly felt the space in front of him empty. He had already rushed into the array. Old Master Xia's other hand grabbed at Xia Luchuan and sucked. Xia Luchuan's body immediately slid towards him. Xia Luchuan didn't retreat. He gritted his teeth and threw a punch at old Master Xia. Guardians were life forms, not pure energy. They were somewhat different from companion beasts. The Guardian's power should be able to have some effect on old Master Xia. Boom! Old Master Xia's palm collided with Xia Luchuan's fist, forcing him to take a few steps back. The suction force immediately vanished. I'll hold him back. Take Xianyue and leave. Xia Luchuan swung his fist at old Master Xia again as he roared. Brother, I'm counting on you. Zhou carried the log and ran with Xia Xianyue. Xia Xianyue was still somewhat hesitant when Zhou immediately said, It'll be easier for your brother to run if we run. Every minute you stay, your brother will be in more danger. Xia Xianyue naturally understood this logic. She gritted her teeth and ran to the edge of the array with Zhou. Zhou attacked the array, but when his strength hit the barrier, it was absorbed by the barrier. He couldn't break it at all. Essence energy type skills won't work. I wonder if pure physical strength will work? Zhou didn't think too much about it. He forcefully switched to the Defy Ancient Sovereign Life Soul and used the Demon Dragon True Body skill. He endured the loss of his essence energy and punched the barrier. Boom! The barrier trembled. Although it didn't shatter, it gave Zhou hope. Pure physical strength was indeed effective against the heaven and earth origin returning array. Zhou didn't hesitate as he punched the barrier again and again, hoping to penetrate it and escape the heaven and earth origin returning array. Xia Luchuan was also attacking Old Master Xia crazily, but all his attacks were easily dodged by Old Master Xia like a cat teasing a mouse. I gave you everything you have. I taught you all your techniques. How dare you attack me? Old Master Xia easily dodged Xia Luchuan's attack and stared coldly at Xia Luchuan. Xia Luchuan didn't say a word as he kept attacking. In the past, Old Master Xia had indeed doted on him. In the past, he had indeed treated Old Master Xia as his closest kin, even closer than his parents. It was not until the year he was 15 that he accidentally saw Master Xia sucking his talented cousin dry. From then on, he rarely went to the East Courtyard. I originally thought that you were different from others, but from the looks of it, you're just a beast with a mortal body. Forget it. With you as my final cornerstone, I didn't raise you for so many years in vain. Old Master Xia actually attacked. His palm passed through Xia Luchuan's fist and struck his chest. Xia Luchuan was wearing the guardian armor. Although he wasn't seriously injured, he took a few steps back. Although a guardian is strong, it's a pity that you haven't had the time to truly control his strength. Furthermore, do you really think that after contracting a guardian, he really belongs to you? Old Master Xia retracted his palm. There was a wound on his finger as blood dripped out. There was also a smear of blood on Xia Luchuan's armor. Clearly, the blood didn't belong to Xia Luchuan. Chapter 749. Crack. Crack. The guardian armor on Xia Luchuan's body cracked. It wasn't shattering, but the armor was automatically disintegrating. The black jade-like armor quickly disintegrated from Xia Luchuan's body before condensing into a figure in the air. It was a black jade humanoid that looked very strange. It had the appearance of a human, but its body was black jade. It was extremely strange. Old Master Xia looked at Xia Luchuan and said coldly, "In this world, only strength is the eternal truth. The so-called guardian only wants to protect humans who can make it stronger. I'm far stronger than you, so it abandoned you and chose me. The rules of the world are that cruel. The strong are respected." As Old Master Xia spoke, the black jade-like guardian had already transformed into armor again. However, this time, it was worn on Old Master Xia's body. Old Master Xia's white hair had completely turned black. After wearing the black jade guardian armor, he looked even more majestic and handsome. His nose was slightly curved, and he had the ruthlessness of an ambitious and ruthless person. It was daunting. Without the protection of the black jade armor, Xia Luchuan's essence energy began to leak out and be absorbed by the heaven and earth origin returning array. Old Master Xia already had terrifying essence energy and vitality. Now, with the power of the black jade armor, his strength was unimaginably terrifying. With a punch, Xia Luchuan could only raise his arm to block before he was sent flying. He slammed heavily into the light barrier and spat out a mouthful of blood. Zhouwen was still striking the light barrier, but he hadn't blasted it open. When he turned his head and saw this scene, he was somewhat alarmed. Although I knew that guardians were unreliable, I never expected them to be so unreliable. They actually betrayed me just like that. Thankfully, I didn't contract a guardian previously. Zhouwen was secretly glad that he hadn't contracted a guardian. Zhouwen secretly decided that unless it was a master-servant contract like demonic neonate, he definitely wouldn't contract a guardian even if he couldn't advance to the mythical stage. However, there was no time for Zhouwen to think too much. Xia Luchuan couldn't hold on any longer. If he didn't leave, he could only fight old pervert Xia in the heaven and earth essence energy array. And fighting him here was too disadvantageous. However, the light barrier was too hard. The power of the demonic dragon true body could not break it in a short time. By the time he broke it open, old freak Xia would have already rushed over. Suddenly, Zhouwen thought of an idea. Although he didn't know if it would work, he could only give it a try. Looking at Xia Xianyue, who had exhausted her essence energy and was losing her essence, vitality, and spirit, Zhou switched to the Tao Sutra again and summoned the heaven-opening scripture of the highest elder to protect him and Xia Xianyue. Then, he hugged the log by his waist and slammed it into the heaven and earth origin returning array's barrier. I've been holding you off for so long. If you don't use more strength, I'll die here. As Zhou thought to himself, the log had already slammed into the barrier. Originally, Zhou only wanted to use the weight of the wood to give it a try, but to his surprise, he heard a crash. The entire heaven and earth origin returning array's barrier shattered like glass. The entire heaven and earth origin returning array stopped operating as the golden runes underground dimmed. Everyone was stunned. Old Master Xia gave up on attacking Xia Luchuan and turned to look at Zhou. He stared at the log in Zhou arms with a puzzled look. Xia Xianyue, who was sitting beside him, looked at Zhou with a look of astonishment. She never expected Zhou to crack the entire heaven and earth origin returning array with a single strike. Zhou never expected the log to be so powerful. If he had known earlier, he would have cracked the heaven and earth origin returning array long ago. There would have been no need to wait until now. However, Zhou wasn't in a daze. He ran towards the Hall of Supreme Harmony with the log in his arms. Old Master Xia moved to stop Zhou. Although he didn't know what Zhou was up to, he felt that it was nothing good. He didn't wish for any accidents to happen. Just as he moved, he saw a sword beam stab at him. Old Master Xia dodged slightly and the evil-slaying sword flew past his face. As for Xia Luchuan, he held the pure hook sword with both hands and slashed down from behind. Old Master Xia snorted coldly and flicked the pure hook sword with a backhand finger, sending the pure hook sword flying. Xia Luchuan's figure appeared beside the evil-slaying sword that had already flown over. He grabbed it and slashed at Old Master Xia's neck. I've said it before, everything you know was taught by me. These tricks of yours are useless against me. Old Master Xia seemed to have expected Xia Luchuan to appear there as he threw a punch at his abdomen. This punch carried unparalleled strength. If one were to be struck, even a steel castle would probably be blasted open, much less a person. From the looks of it, Old Master Xia really had the intention to kill Xia Luchuan. However, Xia Luchuan disappeared again. Old Master Xia's fist missed again. Clang! A sword stabbed into Old Master Xia's back. The sword was the ancient sword used by Xia Xianyue. At that moment, Xia Luchuan held it in his hand and pierced through the black jade armor on Old Master Xia's body. Old Master Xia lowered his head as his gaze turned terrifying. Without turning around, he enunciated each word in a gloomy tone. Very good. Really good. I never expected your sword escape technique to have reached such a level. You can use another person's sword to escape. From the looks of it, you never planned on obeying my orders to kill Zhou from the beginning. The ancient sword stabbed 3 inches in as the sword beam on the sword erupted like a volcano. However, no matter how much strength Xia Luchuan used, he couldn't make the tip of the sword advance any further. Old Master Xia's figure suddenly blurred as he vanished in front of Xia Luchuan as though he had teleported. Xia Luchuan cursed inwardly as he used sword escape. When he appeared again, he was already beside the evil-slaying sword. However, just as Xia Luchuan appeared, Old Master Xia appeared beside the evil-slaying sword and punched Xia Luchuan's body to the ground. Boom! Xia Luchuan's body fell heavily to the ground, creating a huge crater. Blood spewed out of his mouth as countless bones were broken. Brother! Xia Xianyue struggled to stand up and wanted to rush over. Don't come over! Leave quickly! Xia Luchuan gritted his teeth and shouted. At the same time, he used all his might to use sword escape again and arrived beside the pure hook sword. His body clearly staggered, but the hand holding the sword remained as stable as Mount Tai. However, the moment he held the pure hook sword, Old Master Xia had already appeared in front of him. Without waiting for Xia Luchuan to swing his sword, his fists had already struck Xia Luchuan's chest at an indiscernible speed. Xia Luchuan spewed out blood as his sternum collapsed. Chapter 750. While Xia Luchuan was holding back Old Master Xia, Zhou finally reached the roof ridge of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. When he raised the log to the highest point, Zhou knew that it was the right place. After the log stood on the roof ridge, it seemed to be attracted by a magnet. Zhou didn't need to support it, and it didn't fall. It's done. Zhou was delighted as he took 2 steps back. The word slave didn't appear on his forehead again. Zhou didn't have the time to see if there were any other changes to the log because Xia Luchuan was about to be sucked to death by Old Master Xia. Old Master Xia's hand grabbed Xia Luchuan's head as Xia Luchuan's energy and essence rapidly surged into Old Master Xia's body. Originally, Xia Luchuan's life had nothing to do with Zhou, but if Old Master Xia absorbed Xia Luchuan's strength to advance to the mythical stage, it would be even more difficult to deal with him. Furthermore, if Xia Luchuan hadn't held back Old Master Xia, it would have been very difficult for him to escape Old Master Xia and stand the log on the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Without the log's restriction, Zhou felt much more relaxed. Dr. Darkness possessed him and pulled out the bamboo blade. Transcendent Flying Immortal instantly appeared in front of Old Master Xia and slashed at Old Master Xia's hand that was grabbing Xia Luchuan. Old Master Xia's other hand had blocked the bamboo blade at a critical moment. With the protection of the black jade armor, the bamboo blade failed to injure his hand. However, this was within Zhou expectations. He held the orchid blade in his other hand and slashed at Old Master Xia's neck from a strange angle. Old Master Xia had no choice but to let go of Xia Luchuan and grab the orchid blade with his other hand. Zhou movement technique changed as he flew in the air, preventing Old Master Xia's hand from touching his blade. With a long and short blade in hand, he slashed at Old Master Xia from all sorts of strange angles. He didn't dare use essence energy skills and purely relied on his strength to attack. Although the Heaven and Earth origin returning array had been broken, Old Master Xia had the ability to absorb all kinds of essence energy. Even an essence energy skill with powerful offensive strength, like the Golden Sword Aura, could be directly absorbed by him for his own use. Other essence energy skills were even more useless. Thankfully, Zhou movement technique didn't require him to release his primordial energy. Otherwise, he would have been sucked in by Old Master Xia. Outside Forbidden City, Zhang Chuanqiu and Dugugu were already dumbfounded. Previously, with the Heaven and Earth origin returning array enveloping them, they had no idea what had happened inside. After the array was destroyed by Zhou, they could finally see the situation inside. However, when they saw Xia Luchuan being beaten up by Old Master Xia and Zhou helping him out, they were momentarily shocked. Furthermore, more than 10,000 Xia family members had fallen to the ground. They had no idea what had happened. Zhou pushed Transcendent Flying Immortal to its limit. With Dr. Darkness strengthening his body, his speed was much faster than a mythical creature like Six-Winged. However, his twin sabers did not touch Old Master Xia at all. Path to Snatching Heaven. Zhou recognized that the movement technique Old Master Xia used was Path to Snatching Heaven. Zhou wasn't surprised that Old Master Xia knew how to use Path to Snatching Heaven. Furthermore, Old Master Xia's Path to Snatching Heaven was stronger than Xia Xuanyue's. Clearly, he had long reached the mythical stage. However, this movement technique was somewhat different from what Xia Xuanyue had cultivated. It was several times stronger than Xia Xuanyue's. Even Zhou mythical transcendent Flying Immortal paled in comparison. What was even more frightening was that Master Xia was not only proficient in movement technique. His various techniques seemed to have reached a terrifying level of achievement. Every ordinary move seemed like a stroke of genius in his hands. It was as if every move and every technique had reached the godly level. Zhou was completely suppressed in a short period of time. Be it technique or strength, he was unable to fight Old Master Xia head-on. If he hadn't been familiar with the profundities of Path to Snatching Heaven, he would have long been injured by Old Master Xia. With his understanding of Path to Snatching Heaven and the wonders of transcendent flying immortal, Zhou was barely able to maintain an undefeated state. This monster is a monster. How can someone cultivate all the techniques to the mythical stage? Is he still human? Zhou knew very well how difficult it was to cultivate a technique to the mythical stage. After cultivating for so long, he had only cultivated transcendent flying immortal to the mythical stage. Xia Luchuan was about 10 years older than him, but he had only cultivated sword escape to the mythical stage. As for Old Master Xia in front of him, he gave Zhou the feeling that he was omnipotent. It was as though any technique would become an unparalleled divine technique in his hands. Even without using any primordial energy skills, Zhou was almost out of breath from the pressure. Thankfully, Zhou was a person who became calmer in adversity. It wasn't easy for him to make mistakes. He was constantly searching for an opportunity to defeat Old Master Xia. Typical companion beast attacks weren't of much use against someone like Old Master Xia who could devour essence energy skills. Physical attacks were considered more effective against him. However, now that he had the guardian armor, it was like adding wings to a tiger. Typical mythical companion beasts probably posed no threat to him. Tyrant Behemoth was originally a better choice, but unfortunately, it had just used absolute strength not long ago, so it couldn't be used again for the time being. After some thought, Zhou realized that among his companion beasts, the only ones that could pose a threat to Old Master Xia were Torch Dragon's Bright Torch Vision World, Demonic Neonate's Demonic Sword, and Truth Listener who had activated multiple earrings. However, it was only effective and not necessarily useful. Therefore, Zhou had to find a suitable opportunity to use Torch Dragon's Bright Torch World. He only wanted to kill Old Master Xia in one strike and not give him any chance. His flesh tore as Old Master Xia's fingertips brushed past Zhou arm. Immediately, his flesh tore open and blood flowed out. If Zhou had dodged any slower, his arm would have been severed. Fighting someone whose movement techniques weren't slower than yours, whose attacks were more ruthless than yours, and whose moves were more ingenious than yours would be extremely stressful for anyone. As long as one wasn't careful, they might be killed in one strike. There was no replay option in-game in reality, so Zhou didn't dare be careless. He would rather be injured than take the risk of being killed in one strike. You are indeed different. I wouldn't find it strange if I saw such movement techniques and endurance on an old man in his 70s or 80s, but you are only 17 or 18 years old. To think that you can do this. If you don't die, your future achievements will definitely not be inferior to Entien's, Old Master Xia said calmly as he attacked. In fact, he shouldn't be called Old Master Xia anymore. This was because his current appearance was almost the same as a man in his 30s. There were no signs of aging on him at all. With a majestic figure, domineering aura, and invincible combat strength, such a terrifying existence made people feel invulnerable. Blood splattered as another wound appeared on Zhou back. I'll help you. Xia Luchuan struggled to stand up, but his injuries were too severe. He even staggered as he walked. Only his sword-wielding hand remained stable. Xia Luchuan wanted to throw his sword at Old Master Xia, but before he could do so, Old Master Xia had already struck out with his palm, sending Xia Luchuan flying with his sword. It's now. Zhou instantly released his strength as he channeled Transcendent Flying Immortal to its limits. The two sabers transformed into streams of light that crisscrossed with Old Master Xia at the center. Chapter 751. Clang, clang, clang. Transcendent Flying Immortal was forcefully blocked by Old Master Xia's hands. The mythical physique that the Guardian had bestowed upon him, coupled with the powerful essence energy he had previously accumulated, was truly terrifying. Zhou didn't plan on killing Old Master Xia with a single strike. As the two sabers slashed crazily, the eye mirror formed by Torch Dragon also caused Zhou pupils to undergo a strange change. It was as though it had turned into a mirror as it looked at Old Master Xia. However, Old Master Xia suddenly vanished into thin air. Almost at the same time, he appeared behind Zhou and slapped his palm at the top of Zhou head. Teleportation. Zhou immediately realized that it was true teleportation. It was extremely similar to Lost Country. Without the time to turn around or dodge, Zhou raised the bamboo blade above his head to block Old Master Xia's palm. However, the palm strangely turned transparent as though it had transformed into a ghost's hand. It passed through the bamboo blade and continued striking at Zhou head. Zhou was alarmed as he turned his head sideways. He gathered his strength with his other hand and faced Old Master Xia's palm. When the two palms intersected, Zhou immediately felt a strong suction force suck at his palm, sucking the essence energy in his body into Old Master Xia's body. Zhou wanted to shake off Old Master Xia's hand, but he couldn't. He slashed at Old Master Xia with his other hand with the bamboo blade, but he was grabbed by Old Master Xia's other hand. His essence energy was sucked even faster. Zhou immediately realized the problem. Not only had Old Master Xia absorbed the essence energy of those geniuses, but he had also plundered their bloodline talent, life providences, and life souls. Zhou was certain that Old Master Xia definitely had multiple life providences and life souls. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to use so many different essence energy skills. In that short instant, Old Master Xia had used 3 completely different attributes and types of powers. Furthermore, each of them was a rare ability. Zhou essence energy was sucked away as his expression turned livid. He suddenly activated his eye mirror again and looked at Old Master Xia. "Don't use the same move in front of me a second time," Old Master Xia said coldly. Old Master Xia said coldly as he opened his eyes. There seemed to be an evil ghost roaring in his pupils. It was an I-type life soul. The moment he saw the life soul in his eyes, Zhou eyelids closed uncontrollably. He couldn't open them no matter what. How many terrifying life providences and life souls did this bastard plunder? How did he do it? Zhou was alarmed as the essence energy in his body surged towards Old Master Xia like a river. "I'll fight it out with you!" Zhou struggled with all his might, hoping to escape Old Master Xia's grasp, but to no avail. Just as Master Xia was about to say something in a cold voice, a purplish-black ancient sword suddenly emerged from the ground and stabbed towards Master Xia's crotch. This sword was too strange and sinister. Even Master Xia could not react in time. By the time he noticed it, the sword had already pierced his body. Bang! Old Master Xia, who had his body penetrated by the demonic sword, exploded like a water ball, turning into clear water on the ground. As for his true body, he appeared behind Zhou and twisted Zhou's arms with both hands. "He even has an avatar life soul. This old pervert!" Zhou cursed inwardly. "No matter how strong you are, in front of me, you are just a—" Before Old Master Xia could finish his sentence, his pupils constricted. Zhou's right hand, which was grabbed by him, suddenly vanished like a ghost. It passed through Old Master Xia's guardian armor and body and flashed 3 times in an instant. Zhou wasn't afraid of having his essence energy sucked away. His slaughterer life soul allowed him to have infinite essence energy. No matter how much Old Master Xia sucked, it wouldn't harm him. Zhou had been waiting for this opportunity for so long. Just as Old Master Xia thought that he was at the end of his rope and that his final trump card had failed, he used Dr. Darkness's Darkness right hand. Without giving Old Master Xia any chance, Zhou's Darkness right hand plucked out Old Master Xia's heart, liver, and kidney 3 times. Even the guardian armor couldn't block darkness' right hand. Zhou held old Master Xia's bloody organs in his hand. The heart was still beating violently. Every time it beat, blood spewed out from the severed blood vessels. It looked extremely terrifying. Old Master Xia looked down at his body and didn't find any injuries. However, blood seeped out of his mouth and nose. Xia Luchuan and Xia Xianyue also watched this scene with mixed emotions. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since anyone has injured me. You are the first in nearly 20 years. Old Master Xia said as he stared at Zhou. Zhou immediately felt that something was amiss. Old Master Xia's vitality didn't weaken because of the removal of his organs. Instead, it became stronger. White flames burned on Old Master Xia's body. They weren't flames, but corporeal ripples condensed from his overly powerful vitality. Zhou used his power of penetration to stare at Old Master Xia and saw that the organs that had been removed from his body had grown again. Khanate dominance body. How is this possible? This is impossible. Xia Xianyue exclaimed. What's Khanate dominance body? Zhou hurriedly asked. The heavily injured Xia Luchuan continued. The Khanate dominance body is a life providence derived from the invincible Khanate divine art. Only by cultivating the invincible Khanate divine art can one condense a Khanate dominance body. However, not everyone who cultivates the invincible Khanate divine art can condense a Khanate dominance body. It still depends on one's physique and talent. Our Xia family has long abandoned the invincible Khanate divine art. The only person who has condensed a Khanate dominance body in history is our Xia family's hero. However, he has been dead for many years. Zhou had heard of the Xia family's hero. As Li Xian cultivated the invincible Khanate divine art, he had heard a lot about it from him. However, in Zhou impression, the Xia family's hero's life providence wasn't called the Khanate dominance body. Furthermore, in order to get married and have children, he had destroyed the invincible Khanate divine art. He had lost both his life providence and life soul. Even if he was revived, it was impossible for him to have a Khanate dominance body again. It was also because of this that the Xia family's hero died in a dimensional zone. However, Xia Luchuan and Xia Xianyue were the real Xia family members. They naturally wouldn't be wrong. Old Master Xia definitely had a Khanate dominance body. From the looks of it, he absorbed a Xia family member with a Khanate dominance body life providence, Zhou said. That's impossible. Apart from the Xia family's hero, no one can condense a Khanate dominance body even if they cultivate the invincible Khanate divine art. Xia Xianyue said. Then you must be mistaken. He doesn't have a Khanate dominance body, but another ability with powerful self-healing abilities. Zhou saw that old Master Xia's body had recovered. After his organs regenerated, they were no different from before. Chapter 752. Old Master Xia clearly wasn't in the mood to continue listening to them. His figure flashed and appeared in front of Zhou like a devil. At the same time, he struck out at Zhou. The flames on his palm were like the blazing sun, carrying flames that could incinerate everything. When Zhou saw that the flames could even burn the void, he immediately knew that it wasn't an ordinary fire elemental power. He didn't dare take it head-on as he spread out the 6 wings on his back and quickly retreated. However, a pair of golden-winged rock life soul wings appeared behind old Master Xia, greatly increasing his speed. Zhou failed to widen the distance between them as the flames were already about to hit his chest. Zhou had no choice but to slash out bamboo blade at old Master Xia's palm. When the bamboo blade came into contact with the flames spread to Zhou's body through the bamboo blade. Instantly, his body was enveloped in flames. The flames spewed out before extinguishing. The 6 wings on Zhou's back vanished as his face turned pale. If not for 6 wings life protection, Zhou would have died from the strike. However, Six-Winged was also killed as a result, making it impossible for him to revive. There's actually a companion beast that can die as a substitute. Your luck is really extraordinary. However, your luck ends here. Old Master Xia stared coldly at Zhou Wen and was about to continue attacking. Suddenly, a clap of thunder sounded in the sky, shocking everyone. At some point in time, the sky was already filled with dark clouds. Lightning flashed in the dark clouds. Zhang Chuanqiu, who was peeping outside, felt his eyes hurt as tears of blood flowed out of his eyes. He hurriedly retracted his heavenly eye in fright and didn't dare look again. He looked at Forbidden City in horror. Above Forbidden City, clouds surged. The entire sky above the imperial capital was covered in dark clouds. However, Forbidden City seemed to be the center of the storm. It was clearly especially gloomy. Almost at the same time, Dugugu lost contact with his Gu. The two of them looked at each other and saw the horror in each other's eyes. Up to now, they had yet to figure out what had happened in Forbidden City. They only had some guesses based on what they had seen, but they didn't know if it was the truth. But just that little bit of speculation was enough to make them feel indescribably shocked. Do you know what's going on? Dugugu pointed to the dark clouds in the sky and asked. Zhang Chuanqiu pinched his fingers to deduce, but the more he did, the more he shook his head. The heavenly secrets are chaotic and nothing can be divined. The results are different every time. It's useless to calculate. Looks like something big is about to happen. Let's leave this place as soon as possible, lest we get implicated. What about that guy? Dugugu said. I've divined his fortune before. His life isn't supposed to end. He should be able to survive this tribulation. As Zhang Chuanqiu spoke, he turned around and left as though he was being chased by a vicious dog. He was afraid that he would be bitten if he ran too slowly. Dugugu looked in the direction of Forbidden City before leaving with Zhang Chuanqiu. In Forbidden City, Zhou Wen summoned Torch Dragon and said to Xia Xianyue and company, "Leave first." He knew that he could only fight desperately. Otherwise, he might not be able to get out of the Forbidden City today. Zhou Wen suspected that perhaps the old Master Xia in front of him was one of the 6 heroes, the invincible existence of the Xia family. However, the hero of the Xia family had long lost his virginity and had children. Otherwise, there wouldn't be the current Xia family. Wait, what if the Xia family doesn't really have a hero bloodline? Zhou Wen's heart palpitated as he suddenly felt that it was very possible. As the saying went, even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. However, this old Master Xia was equally cold-blooded and heartless towards the Xia family. If he was slightly displeased, he would kill them. Even geniuses of the Xia family like Xia Xianyue and Xia Luchuan could be ruthless enough to kill them. This was definitely not something an ordinary person could do. However, if old Master Xia was really the hero of the Xia family and he hadn't really lost his virginity, then all of this could be explained. This was because the Xia family wasn't a hero bloodline at all, so he didn't need to have any qualms about family ties. Of course, all of this was just Zhou Wen's guess. Perhaps old Master Xia had nothing to do with the Xia family's hero. His nature was just so sinister. "Ah Cheng, take little Chuan and little Yu back," old Master Xia said coldly as he stared at Zhou Wen. It wasn't that he didn't kill Xia Luchuan and Xia Xianyue out of kindness, but because the array had been shattered, he couldn't prevent outsiders from spying on them. He didn't want to kill Xia Luchuan and Xia Xianyue in front of others. Yes. Ah Cheng ran towards Xia Luchuan and Xia Xianyue. Zhou Wen didn't stop him. It was better to take Xia Luchuan and Xia Xianyue away than to die here. As long as they weren't dead, there was still hope of survival. "Zhou Wen, live on," Xia Xianyue shouted at Zhou Wen as she was taken away. "I'll live on," Zhou Wen thought. Old Master Xia glanced at Torch Dragon and said, "This should be Torch Dragon from the Zhuolu Temple, right? At such a young age, you actually have so many mythical companion beasts." Furthermore, you have such a martial arts cultivation level that allows you to dominate the Federation. Throughout the history of the Federation, there's no one who can have such achievements at your age. I'm still inferior to you. Zhou spoke from the bottom of his heart. He originally believed that he was already omnipotent and that he could deal with all kinds of dangers. Even if he was inferior to others in certain aspects, Zhou had always felt that he was one of the best in the Federation in terms of overall combat strength. However, Old Master Xia in front of him was more well-rounded than him. Not only did he have multiple life providences and life souls, but he could also use them at will. Furthermore, he had a guardian. What was even more terrifying was that he didn't plan on purely relying on the guardian's power to stay at the mythical stage. Instead, he wanted to advance to the mythical stage with his own strength. He had a set of divine skills and powerful strength. Furthermore, he definitely had a mythical companion beast on him. It was definitely not an ordinary mythical companion beast. His strength could be described as unfathomable. Boom! The lightning in the sky constantly intertwined, and the sound of thunder exploded one after another. Xia Luchuan and Xia Xianyue no longer had the ability to fight. They were forcefully taken out by Qing, leaving only Zhou and Old Master Xia in front of the huge hall of supreme harmony. You are indeed inferior to me now, but if we were born in the same era, I might not be as good as you. With you as the last cornerstone for my advancement to the mythical stage, I'm very satisfied. Don't worry. After today, I will take your talent, life providence, and life soul for myself and make them famous. You should be able to feel comforted in the netherworld, Old Master Xia said as he took a step forward. As though he had torn through the void, he arrived in front of Zhou. Zhou was already prepared. He put on the Jade Crystal Spirit armor and at the same time, Torch Dragon used the World King transformation. All the Torch Dragon eyes on his body opened up, turning into mirrors. It was the bright Torch Vision world in the World King transformation state. Chapter 753. The power of the bright Torch Vision world enveloped the entire area without any blind spot. However, the moment the bright Torch Vision world was activated, Old Master Xia suddenly vanished. He couldn't sense his location within Truth Listener's range, making Zhou feel that something was amiss. When the power of the bright Torch Vision world stopped, he saw Old Master Xia's figure appear not far in front of Zhou as though he had never moved. Old Master Xia stroked the ring in the shape of a taiji symbol on his finger and said indifferently, "Cosmic shift, yin and yang interconnect. There aren't many abilities that can do this. I only obtained the yin-yang universe ring life soul after searching for nearly 10 years. With this life soul, I can temporarily reverse the yin and yang universe, preventing any power from injuring me or seeing me. How many people have you killed and how many life souls have you plundered? Don't you think that those life souls are like the ghosts of those people, pestering you every day and night?" Zhou unsummoned Torch Dragon to prevent it from being killed by Old Master Xia. After the World King transformation, Torch Dragon entered a weakened state and its strength was greatly reduced. In such a battle, it could no longer play a decisive role. Old Master Xia said indifferently, "In this era, if I'm still afraid of ghosts and gods, how can I defy the heavens and change my fate? I'm not afraid of ghosts or gods. I'm just afraid that I won't be able to make all-dimensional creatures prostrate under my feet in my lifetime. It's about time." As one of the 9 main life souls of the Khanate Great Emperor Sutra, help me advance to the mythical stage. The black jade armor on Old Master Xia's body emitted a terrifying black light. As Old Master Xia punched out, space tore apart, forming a black sun. However, on careful look, the black sun was a black hole. It produced a huge suction force that pulled Zhou in. As Old Master Xia blasted the black hole at Zhou, he felt the suction force grow stronger as though it was about to pull his soul in. Zhou Wen's figure flashed and suddenly vanished. Old Master Xia frowned slightly as he looked around, but he didn't find Zhou Wen. It was as though Zhou Wen had vanished into thin air. After a moment of thought, Master Xia condensed a ball of sun-like radiance in his palm. The radiance illuminated the entire Forbidden City. Scorching smoke rose from the places that were illuminated. No matter where one hid, they would be forced out by this indiscriminate attack. However, old Master Xia didn't sense anything amiss. It was as though Zhou Wen had really vanished into thin air. Does he have an ability similar to the Yin-Yang Universe Ring? Old Master Xia frowned slightly. Zhou Wen naturally didn't have the Yin-Yang Universe Ring, but he had the invisibility cloak. With the Wheel of Destiny activated, he had 3 minutes of invisibility. Attacks were useless against him. After using the invisibility cloak, Zhou Wen summoned Demonic Neonate, who was hiding behind the roof of the Hall of Supreme Harmony, and rushed towards the entrance of Forbidden City. The formless invisibility could only last for 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, he could only remain invisible while his body remained. That way, it would be easy to be discovered. Therefore, Zhou Wen wanted to take this opportunity to escape Forbidden City. But when he rushed to the gate of the Forbidden City, he found that the gate had been closed at some point. However, invisibility was formless for 3 minutes. It could directly pass through matter as Zhou Wen charged straight for the door. Bam! Zhou Wen's body was repelled by a strange force, preventing him from rushing out. How did this happen? Zhou Wen was alarmed as he felt that something was amiss. The force that repelled him wasn't the door itself, but a lightning-like force. His body still felt a little numb. The dark clouds and lightning that filled the sky had already made Zhou Wen feel that something was amiss. Now it was even more so. Zhou Wen looked up and carefully sized up Forbidden City. He realized that the corner tower on the city wall was emitting a faint glow. Although the light wasn't strong, it was especially eye-catching when the dark clouds covered the sun. Zhou Wen flew into the air and looked at the other 3 corner towers in the city. Indeed, they were the same. They were all suffused with a faint glow. Zhou Wen didn't have the time to think about the reason. He didn't have much time left. It had been nearly 20 seconds since he rushed over. Since he couldn't leave now, Zhou Wen had to think of a way to kill old Master Xia. Otherwise, he would be the one to die. The Khanate Dominance body is probably similar to Li Xian's unlucky god of combat. Its self-healing ability is even stronger. It's probably very difficult to kill him by simply injuring his body. How can I kill him? Zhou Wen couldn't think of an answer, but he couldn't sit back and do nothing. He quickly rushed towards old Master Xia, who was standing there. He used all sorts of methods to find Zhou Wen, but it was of little use. He already had 8 life providences and life souls, as well as various essence energy skills, but none of them worked. He failed to find the invisible Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen came in front of old Master Xia and pointed at his mouth. Then, he summoned Primordial Spore and allowed it to enter his body. Regardless of whether it was useful or not, he decided to give it a try. After Primordial Spore entered old Master Xia's body, Zhou Wen pulled out the orchid blade and released it from its invisibility state. He stabbed it into old Master Xia's mouth. The orchid blade entered his mouth and penetrated old Master Xia's brain, but it failed to penetrate his skull. Zhou Wen didn't care as the orchid blade stirred his brain. The power in old Master Xia erupted like a volcano, sending Zhou Wen flying. He didn't even have the time to pull out the orchid blade in his mouth. Zhou Wen's body tumbled in the air. It wasn't easy for him to dissipate the terrifying force, but he still spat out a mouthful of blood. Zhou Wen didn't care about his injuries. Such injuries wouldn't kill him. He only wanted to know if this strike was effective. Old Master Xia stood there with the orchid blade in his mouth. His brain had been severely damaged by Zhou Wen, but when Zhou Wen looked at him, he saw old Master Xia extend his palm, grab the orchid blade, and pull it out of his mouth. As for his injuries, they were rapidly healing. He can still heal like this? Zhou Wen's heart chilled. He couldn't kill old Master Xia like this. He couldn't think of any power that could kill him. Old Master Xia held the orchid blade, but there was no anger in his eyes. Instead, there was a hint of fanaticism. You really surprised me. Although I haven't advanced to the mythical stage, with the augmentation of a guardian, I'm actually already a mythical creature. Furthermore, I'm much stronger than ordinary mythical creatures. Under such circumstances, you can still injure me more than once. It's enough to prove that your life providence and life soul are very powerful. However, this also means that after I absorb your talent, life providence, and life soul, I will be stronger after advancing to the mythical stage. I should be thanking you. Old Master Xia walked towards Zhou Wen step by step, his killing intent burning to the extreme. Chapter 754. Zhou Wen stood up and stared at old Master Xia. He silently switched his essence energy art back to the most primitive slaughterer and used the power of the Sai of the King. Suddenly, an explosive power filled his body, almost causing his body to explode. Furthermore, that power was still rapidly growing stronger. Zhou Wen hadn't used the power of the Sai of the King in a long time because it was just too powerful. Even with his present physique, he couldn't last long. If this continued, he would explode from his own strength without the enemy needing to do anything. However, at this point, he had to use it no matter what. Old Master Xia's figure flashed as he appeared in front of Zhou Wen as though he had teleported. The orchid blade in his hand stabbed at Zhou Wen's eyes. Even at the mythical stage, his speed was extremely terrifying. It was almost impossible to react. Clang! However, Zhou Wen reacted. The bamboo blade struck the orchid blade, forcing old Master Xia to take half a step back. It filled old Master Xia's eyes with surprise. With the augmentation of the Guardian, his current speed and strength were at the mythical stage. Furthermore, he was a top-notch existence among mythical creatures. The fact that Zhou Wen could block his blade and force him back was enough to shock him. After all, Zhou Wen didn't have a guardian. Even if he had a mythical companion beast, he couldn't be considered a true mythical. However, Zhou Wen didn't have the time to think so much. His entire body was swollen to the point of discomfort. It probably wouldn't take long for his body to explode and die. He had to do something before his body couldn't withstand the power of the Sai of the King. The bamboo blade slashed at old Master Xia violently, one strike after another like a tsunami. Old Master Xia raised the orchid blade to meet it. At the same time, he absorbed the terrifying essence energy contained in the bamboo blade. However, he was surprised to discover that the essence energy in the bamboo blade seemed endless. No matter how much he sucked, the essence energy in the bamboo blade didn't show any signs of weakening. Zhou Wen's consecutive strikes forced old Master Xia to retreat repeatedly. The strength of each strike increased exponentially. How is this possible? Old Master Xia was alarmed. He had the augmentation of a guardian. Coupled with the power of the Khanate Great Emperor Sutra, there weren't many people at the mythical stage who could compete with him in strength. Zhou Wen was at the epic stage, but the power he released could suppress him. This shocked and delighted him. The stronger Zhou Wen was, the stronger the wheel of destiny condensed by the Khanate Great Emperor Sutra would be after he absorbed Zhou Wen and used the power of the 9 life souls to advance to the mythical stage. Display your strength to your heart's content. This is the last glorious moment of your life. Let me see exactly how strong you are. Old Master Xia's figure flashed as he dodged Zhou Wen's saber attacks. The excitement in his eyes intensified. Zhou Wen's expression didn't change at all. He was completely focused on the battle and didn't have any other thoughts. All he did was push the violent power in his body to its limit. The saber became faster and faster, and its power became more and more violent. As for Zhou Wen's saber techniques, they became stronger and stronger. Transcendent Flying Immortal was actually a movement technique, not a saber technique. Now, Zhou was only using Transcendent Flying Immortal to injure Old Master Xia. His path to snatching heaven wasn't inferior to Transcendent Flying Immortal. Therefore, Zhou could only seek a breakthrough. Since his movement technique was unable to threaten Old Master Xia, he could only make the saber in his hand faster and stronger. Zhou didn't have the time to use so many fancy moves. He was only pursuing greater speed. Quick, quick, quick. Zhou only wanted to make himself faster. Be it his movement technique or the saber in his hand, they had infinite possibilities due to the nearly infinite power in his body. Bam! When Zhou felt that his body was about to explode from the violent body, he finally reached a point where even Old Master Xia couldn't dodge. He slashed at Old Master Xia's chest. However, Old Master Xia's body exploded like water. He had only slashed at an avatar. Old Master Xia's body appeared elsewhere. How interesting! An epic body can actually possess such powerful strength. However, your body shouldn't be able to withstand such powerful strength, right? Old Master Xia said as he sized up Zhou with a fervent gaze. He really wanted to know how strong he would be if his mythical body had such power. Old Master Xia had carefully selected 7 youths with peerless talent and plundered their talent, life providences, and life souls. Together with his own life providences and life souls, he was only short of 1 life providence and life soul to reach the Khanate Great Emperor Sutra's extreme number of 9 and change his fate to advance to the mythical stage. The Khanate Great Emperor Sutra was created by combining the Xia family's Great Emperor Sutra and the invincible Khanate Divine Art he obtained from the Khanate Divine Temple. He believed that he could definitely advance to the mythical stage with this essence energy art. However, it was difficult to gather 9 life providences and 9 life souls. Typical life providences and life souls, such as the 10,000 epic swordsmen, were actually only nutrients for the 9 life providences and life souls. They wouldn't truly become his life providences and life souls. It was very rare for an existence to become one of the 9 main life providences and life souls. Up to now, Old Master Xia was still short of one. In fact, Xia Luchuan was the 9th person that Old Master Xia had deliberately nurtured, but for some reason, Old Master Xia ultimately didn't absorb Xia Luchuan. It was only with Zhou appearance that Old Master Xia planned on using Zhou as his 9th life providence and life soul. At the same time, he used the life providences and life souls of more than 10,000 people as nutrients to push himself to the mythical stage and condense the wheel of destiny. However, Zhou performance alarmed Old Master Xia. Zhou was much stronger than the 8 he had previously absorbed. It was something he had never seen in his life. Indeed, just as Old Master Xia had said, Zhou body couldn't withstand the power of the Sai of the King. His flesh and blood tore apart as bloody marks appeared on his skin. His muscles were torn apart and dripping with blood. Cracks appeared on his bones. If this continued, he would probably self-destruct. However, at that moment, Zhou remained as calm as ever. He carefully sensed the power that was pushing his body towards destruction. Zhou had seen many powerful creatures: Torch Dragon, Tyrant Behemoth, Primordial Sword Immortal, Truth Listener, and the Guardians that seemed even more powerful. They were all very powerful, a power that made people look up to them. However, no matter what kind of power it was, it seemed incomparable to the power in Zhou body. Zhou could sense that this power was 1 level higher than any power he had seen before. It might even be on more than 1 level. If God defies me, I'll slay God. If immortals defy me, I'll slay immortals. Not the same as God. Not the same as immortals. I am me. Zhou recalled the unbridled and arrogant voice in his dream. It made him tremble in fear, but it also made his blood boil. Sogu. Chapter 755. His flesh tore apart as blood constantly flowed out. However, Zhou Wen's heart was calm as he gripped the bamboo blade tightly. At the same time, he condensed all his insights onto the bamboo blade and raised it high above his head. Old Master Xia's heart palpitated as though he sensed danger. His expression turned solemn as he stared at Zhou Wen with a burning gaze. Wounds constantly ruptured on Zhou Wen's body, but his expression remained calm. He exerted strength with both hands and slashed down at old Master Xia, who wasn't far away. With this slash, the berserk power in Zhou Wen's body was instantly sucked out and condensed on the blade, causing Bamboo Blade's body to tremble incessantly. When the saber slashed down, old Master Xia couldn't see the trajectory of the saber. Alarmed, he immediately changed his body. Bam! Old Master Xia's body was split into two, turning into clear water that scattered to the ground. On the other side, old Master Xia's true body appeared, but one could see that the guardian armor on his body was shattering. From the helmet to the armor, a saber mark appeared from top to bottom. A formless saber force continued to press down on the protector's armor, causing it to crack from top to bottom. Old Master Xia's blood flowed out as well. Crack! The guardian armor on old Master Xia's body shattered, turning into black jade or that scattered, revealing old Master Xia's true body. His body flashed and soon appeared again. He had likely used the Yin-Yang Universe Ring's ability. However, when he appeared, the saber marks on his body were still spreading. From his head to his chest and abdomen, a bloody mark constantly expanded as more and more blood seeped out. Old Master Xia had an almost undying Khanate dominance body, but it failed to prevent the saber marks on his body from deepening, nor did it heal his wounds. Old Master Xia watched as the saber marks on his body constantly tore apart. His skull was about to be split open as his expression turned somewhat crazy and incredulous. Impossible. There's no power that can take my life. My Khanate Great Emperor Sutra is the strongest. The sigh of the king on Zhou Wen had already converged, and the slaughterer life soul automatically fell silent. During that slash, the slaughterer life soul had automatically fused with Zhou Wen's slash. Slaughterer, which was originally a passive augmentation of Zhou Wen, had an active effect for the first time. After shattering the guardian armor, a strange force fused into the slaughterer life soul, but it didn't advance the slaughterer life soul like before. Zhou Wen didn't find it strange. The advancement of a life soul was more difficult with each level. The last time he killed a guardian, slaughterer advanced to an evolved body. This time, to advance to a perfect body, it was obvious that killing one guardian wasn't enough. That strike from before had drained him. He basically had no combat strength left. In particular, his body had been severely damaged by the power of the Sigh of the King, so it was difficult for him to even maintain a standing posture. Zhou Wen stared at Slaughterer as the power of the strike continued to take effect. It was about to tear old Master Xia's bones into two. Without the power of the Guardian, no matter how strong old Master Xia was, he was only at the epic stage. Zhou Wen believed that it was impossible for him to withstand the terrifying saber force. Not only did the saber force have the power of the Sigh of the King, but it also had the power of Slaughterer. Zhou Wen felt that the power of the saber wouldn't disappear unless he killed his opponent. Boom! At that moment, a bolt of lightning suddenly descended from the sky and struck old Master Xia's head. The purple lightning bathed Master Xia's body, shattering the saber force on Master Xia's body. At the same time, the strange purple lightning also merged into his body, as if a purple light flashed across his body. Once the saber force shattered, old Master Xia's injuries immediately began to rapidly recover. What was even more terrifying was that his body was rapidly transforming, as though he was transforming from the epic stage to the mythical stage. Are you King kidding me? I carried you all the way here and suffered so much. Yet you actually helped that old pervert deal with me? Zhou Wen felt indignant. He could clearly see that the purple bolt of lightning didn't strike down from the void, but shot out from the wood on the roof of the Hall of Supreme Harmony. Haha, I'm indeed someone blessed by the heavens. Even the heavens want to help me advance to the mythical stage and use the divine lightning to help me condense another soul, allowing me to advance to the mythical stage. Who in the world can stop me? I, Xia Zhihuang, am the Emperor of the Heavens. No one can stop me from becoming a god. Old Master Xia roared with laughter as the 9 life souls on his body appeared faintly. Terrifying power spewed out of his body as his body rapidly transformed. As though responding to Old Master Xia, lightning flashed in the sky as thunder rumbled incessantly like a heaven-shaking salute. Zhou sat weakly on the ground. He no longer had the strength to fight. If Old Master Xia really advanced, Zhou wouldn't have the combat strength to fight him. However, the name Xia Zhihuang made Zhou finally know who Old Master Xia was. This name wasn't only famous in the Xia family, but even in the entire Federation. He was one of the 6 heroes who had founded the Federation, the founder of the Xia family, and the legendary hero Xia Zhihuang who had long died. At that moment, Xia Zhihuang's aura had already reached its limits. His body almost transformed into crystalline jade as his essence energy spewed out like a volcanic eruption. The power of the 9 life providences and 9 life souls fused as one as an ancient word Imperial gradually appeared on his forehead. The word Imperial shimmered with divine light as it produced purple lightning as though it was a supreme existence. Zhou could naturally guess that the purple word Imperial was likely the Wheel of Destiny that Xia Zhihuang had condensed. Once the Wheel of Destiny stabilized, he would successfully advance to the mythical stage. Zhou summoned Demonic Neonate and Truth Listener. At this point, he could only risk his life and strike Xia Zhihuang down to the mortal world before he completed his transformation from the epic stage to the mythical stage. Just relying on Demonic Neonate's strength was clearly insufficient. Zhou could only consider getting Truth Listener to shatter more earrings, at least 3 or more. However, Zhou couldn't predict the consequences. Just as Zhou was about to order Truth Listener to shatter the earring, he realized that something was amiss with Xia Zhihuang's condition. There was a faint force throbbing in his body. It was as rhythmic as a heart. Although this force wasn't powerful, and seemed to be a part of Xia Zhihuang's body, it was sending a certain message to Zhou. Primordial Spore. Zhou immediately knew what it was. Xia Zhihuang's body was transmitting information to him. It was the primordial spore that Zhou had previously sent into Xia Zhihuang's body. Zhou was pleasantly surprised. Typically, it would take a long time for primordial spore to parasitize mythical creatures. However, the information sent by primordial spore seemed to tell Zhou that it had already taken root. Sogu. Chapter 756. Zhou immediately thought of the problem. Xia Zhihuang previously had a guardian fused with him, and his body was at the mythical stage. However, Zhou had just killed the guardian. Without the guardian, Xia Zhihuang hadn't advanced to the mythical stage. He was only at the epic stage, and he had nearly been killed by Zhou's saber strike. He was in a weakened state, so primordial spore was able to successfully parasitize him in such a short period of time. Once the parasitism succeeded, it could quickly sprout before Xia Zhihuang truly advanced to the mythical stage. It wouldn't be as slow as when parasitizing mythical creatures. From the information sent back by primordial spore, it wouldn't take long for it to completely control Xia Zhihuang. Zhou was pleasantly surprised. He originally imagined that he could only fight to the death, but he never expected that at the end of his rope, a tiny primordial spore would reverse the entire situation. Boom! Xia Zhihuang's evolution reached the most critical moment. Bolts of lightning struck down from the dark clouds and constantly struck Xia Zhihuang's body like a lightning waterfall. Not only did the lightning fail to injure Xia Zhihuang, but it also helped him transform and evolve, making his body increasingly close to a mythical physique. According to what Zhou knew, all mythical creatures' original stats were 11, and humans' original stats were probably 1. It was even possible that they didn't even have one. After all, human babies were just too weak. They were much weaker than ordinary legendary creatures, much less mythical creatures. Even ordinary legendary creatures and epic creatures rarely advanced to the mythical stage. It was almost impossible for humans to advance to the mythical stage. Xia Zhihuang had condensed 9 supreme-grade life providences and life souls, so he needed a large amount of energy to advance to the mythical stage. The 10,000 epic creatures from before were prepared by Xia Zhihuang for this. However, from the looks of it, it was still insufficient. With the help of the heavenly lightning, he was able to take the final step and his body rapidly transformed. Unlike the fusion with the Guardian, the current Xia Zhihuang's entire body emitted the power of the mythical stage. Every cell and strand of hair contained terrifying energy. The current Xia Zhihuang didn't look like an old man at all. His body was filled with the vitality of youth and terrifying explosive strength. It was as though he could collapse mountains and rivers with a casual move of his finger. His long black hair fluttered as Xia Zhihuang, who was bathed in lightning, looked like a revived ancient fiend celestial. On his forehead, the word Emperor grew brighter and brighter like a purple star. Boom! When the last bolt of lightning struck, Xia Zhihuang completed the transformation from human to mythical. He didn't advance to the mythical stage with the help of a guardian, but he advanced with a human body. This was very likely the first in human history. I've finally advanced to the mythical stage. Xia Zhihuang floated in midair and raised his palm. He admired his transformed body as his excited voice trembled. Finally, I of the soul of the mythical stage. Xia Zhihuang of Zhou of one. Of it of one. Xia Zhihuang wanted to use Zhou to test how strong his mythical powers were. The word Emperor on his forehead glowed brightly as he prepared to attack Zhou. However, he suddenly heard Xia Zhihuang scream tragically. He hugged his head and screamed. His voice was extremely shrill, as though someone had used an electric drill to drill into his brain. Zhou was first taken aback before he saw the word Emperor that glowed purple. He immediately understood what had happened. That crappy piece of wood isn't helping Xia Zhihuang at all. Instead, it wants to enslave or even occupy Xia Zhihuang's mythical body. Zhou recalled the word slave on his forehead and connected it to the word emperor on Xia Zhihuang's forehead. Although the words were different, the form was surprisingly similar. Looking at Xia Zhihuang, who was screaming in pain, Zhou also received the message from Primordial Spore. It seemed that there was a force vying with Primordial Spore for control of Xia Zhihuang's soul. Xia Zhihuang screamed repeatedly. Now, his body could be considered a power struggle of 3 kingdoms: Xia Zhihuang, Primordial Spore, and the word Emperor on his forehead. All 3 parties wanted to control Xia Zhihuang's body, but Xia Zhihuang's willpower was the weakest among them. Primordial Spore actually failed to gain an absolute advantage. The true strongest was the word Emperor. Why is this happening? Jing Daoxian clearly said that as long as I can advance to the mythical stage with 9 lives, I will have the light of the Dharch. Why is this happening? Xia Zhihuang screamed and roared. He wanted to hit his head on the ground, but his body no longer listened to him. It left him alarmed and furious. When Zhou heard Xia Zhihuang's roar, he was slightly taken aback. There's actually Jing Daoxian involved? Zhou felt that he had seen this scene somewhere before. After some thought, he recalled that Lord Alcohol had said something similar after eating the longevity fruit. Looking at Xia Zhihuang, who was in excruciating pain, Zhou suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He had a very bad feeling. Lord Alcohol and Xia Zhihuang were people who wanted to break through to the mythical stage. Furthermore, they had listened to Jing Daoxian's words to reach this step. As for the lost immortal sutra that Zhou Wen cultivated, it came from Jing Daoxian. Now that Zhou Wen also wanted to advance to the mythical stage, why did he feel that his situation was somewhat similar to Xia Zhihuang and company? However, Zhou Wen didn't have the time to think so much. Primordial Spore failed to gain the upper hand. Its control over Xia Zhihuang's body was weakening, and Xia Zhihuang's will was about to disappear. Only the light of the word Emperor grew stronger. It was only a matter of time before it controlled Xia Zhihuang's body. Before Xia Zhihuang's body was completely controlled, Zhou Wen drew his saber and slashed forward. At the same time, Truth Listener and Demonic Neonate attacked under Zhou Wen's orders. Due to Primordial Spore's restraint, Xia Zhihuang couldn't move at all. Demonic Neonate didn't need to find another opportunity as she unsheathed her demonic sword and stabbed forward. Zhou Wen was too seriously injured and couldn't use the Sai of the King again. His strength was extremely limited. When his saber slashed at Xia Zhihuang, not only did he fail to injure him, but he was also sent flying by Xia Zhihuang's strength. Zhou Wen fell to the ground as the wounds on his body tore open. The pain made him grimace. Thankfully, Truth Listener was more impressive. It shattered 2 earrings and stabbed its claws into Xia Zhihuang's chest. The demonic sword stabbed into Xia Zhihuang's head, inch by inch. The word Emperor flickered in a bid to blast the demonic sword away, but Truth Listener violently struck Xia Zhihuang's forehead, causing the word to tremble. Chapter 757. Due to the restraint of the Primordial Spore, the Emperor character was unable to control Xia Zhihuang's body to counterattack. The demonic sword stabbed into Xia Zhihuang's head inch by inch. At the same time, a black demonic aura invaded Xia Zhihuang's body, weakening his vitality. The Emperor character was the Wheel of Destiny condensed by Xia Zhihuang. Its foundation was Xia Zhihuang. With Xia Zhihuang's vitality weakening, the glow on the Emperor character dimmed, no longer having its previous aura. How dare you! Just as Zhou Wen was rejoicing, he suddenly heard a cold female voice coming from above the Hall of Supreme Harmony. And the source of the voice was the log standing there. There's a woman in that log? Zhou Wen was secretly surprised. As the female voice sounded from the log, the stars in the sky shimmered as starlight descended. It tore through the dark clouds and illuminated Forbidden City. Zhou Wen took a careful look. The lit stars were clearly the 28 lunar mansions. Apart from the 28 lunar mansions, no other starlight pierced through the dark clouds. The starlight shone down, causing the entire Forbidden City to emit resplendent starlight, especially the 4 corner towers. They seemed to emit a divine glow. Be it the 28 lunar mansions in the sky or the 4 corner towers, they all used the log as the center. The starlight condensed on the log, causing it to emit purple starlight as though countless stars were swirling inside. Under the starlight emitted by the purple log, Zhou Wen felt a pain on his forehead. He immediately felt that something was amiss. He took out a mirror and saw purple light and lines appear on his forehead. From the parts that had already condensed, it seemed like the word slave was about to condense again. Forbidden City's layout is the Polaris Star enclosure. The Polaris Star is also known as the Emperor Star. It's the life star of the Emperor. Now that the 28 lunar mansions have appeared, the 4 corner towers have submitted. Could it be that the log is Emperor Polaris? Zhou Wen guessed. If it was really the legendary Emperor Polaris, Zhou Wen felt that he was doomed today. Unlike ordinary mythical creatures, Emperor Polaris was an existence that ruled over all immortals. He was an immortal emperor, something that ordinary mythical creatures couldn't compare to. The lines outlined by the word slave on his forehead became more obvious. Zhou Wen continuously switched a few life souls, but he was unable to stop the slave from forming. Suddenly, Zhou Wen felt a force surge out of his body. It was the power of the Sai of the King, but this time, it wasn't controlled by Zhou Wen. Instead, the sigh of the king took the initiative. It was somewhat similar to the time he knelt. In an instant, the incomplete slave word on Zhou Wen's forehead shattered and dissipated. The power of the sigh of the king enveloped his body, as though he had been pulled into a warm embrace. Scram! Zhou Wen felt a voice coming from his body. The voice was vague, but it seemed to have supreme majesty. The dark clouds that shrouded the Forbidden City were broken in an instant, revealing the clear sky and the sun. There was no more cloud. The starlight of the 28 lunar mansions dimmed in an instant and disappeared without a trace. The starlight of the entire Forbidden City also dissipated. The 4 corner towers collapsed, and the log fell from the Hall of Supreme Harmony and smashed on the ground. The log trembled incessantly as though it was about to collapse. It left Zhou Wen shuddering in fear. Crack! Xia Zhihuang's body finally couldn't withstand the power of the demonic sword and was split into 2. Demonic aura shuttled through his corpse as though it wanted to destroy his body. The mysterious phone suddenly vibrated at that moment. Zhou Wen took out his phone and saw that the Dead Man Tree game screen had automatically opened. When it shone at Xia Zhihuang's corpse was sucked in without a single drop of blood left. Without having the time to take a closer look at the Dead Man Tree's situation, Zhou Wen unsummoned his companion beasts and put on the invisibility cloak before running. The log that had fallen in front of the Hall of Supreme Harmony trembled more and more violently, like a volcano that was about to erupt. As for the power of the sigh of the king on Zhou Wen's body, it made him feel uneasy. He wanted to escape Forbidden City first. Perhaps it was because there were no dark clouds or starlight enveloping him. Zhou Wen successfully rushed out of Forbidden City. However, just as he rushed out of Forbidden City, he saw a purple beam shoot into the sky from Forbidden City. Then, the entire Forbidden City emitted a terrifying purple glow, as though it was an immortal city condensed from starlight. Zhou Wen didn't dare take another look. He turned around and ran, wanting to get as far away from Forbidden City as possible. Not long after he ran out, he saw Wang Lu looking at Forbidden City with the chick and antelope. The anomaly in Forbidden City worried Wang Lu. She closed her eyes and pressed her palms together in front of her chest as she muttered something. "Goddess of luck, please help Zhou Wen and let him return safely." Zhou Wen was very touched when he heard that. He thought to himself, Wang Lu is really kind-hearted. However, the antelope's eyes were fixed on Zhou Wen. Clearly, the invisibility cloak's ability didn't work on it. The chick was also staring in Zhou Wen's direction, but its eyes were somewhat puzzled. It seemed to have discovered Zhou Wen, but it didn't see him. "Wang Lu, let's go." Zhou Wen appeared and pulled Wang Lu out. Now that there was an anomaly in Forbidden City, no one knew what would happen. It was best to stay as far away from Forbidden City as possible. Wang Lu was given a fright. Seeing that Zhou Wen was covered in wounds, many of which were still bleeding, and his clothes were drenched in blood, she couldn't help but ask worriedly, "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. I won't die. Let's leave Forbidden City first. It's too dangerous here." Zhou Wen summoned the great Might Vajra Bull and jumped onto it with Wang Lu before running away. When they were far away from Forbidden City, Zhou Wen got the great Might Vajra Bull to stop. Only then did he feel the excruciating pain in his body. Just now, he had been in a nervous state and hadn't paid any attention to his injuries. Now, he felt pain everywhere as though he was about to die. Just moving made him want to shout for his mom. "Your injuries are too serious. I'll take you back to treat your injuries first." Wang Lu summoned a vine that crawled onto Zhou Wen's body and wrapped around him. At the same time, the bud drilled into his wounds and emitted a faint glow to heal his injuries. Then, she summoned a mount and brought Zhou Wen, who was like a vine mummy, back. Zhou Wen was too seriously injured and had to recuperate on his own. He didn't know when he would recover, so he allowed Wang Lu to bring him back. Now, Zhou Wen was somewhat worried. He didn't know how Xia Luchuan and Xia Xianwei were doing. However, He was covered in injuries. Even if he wanted to save them, he didn't have the strength. Once Xia Zhihuang is dead, there shouldn't be anyone in the Xia family who wants their lives, right? Zhou thought for a moment and felt that they probably wouldn't be in any danger. He would get Wang Lu to help him scout for information later. The anomaly in Forbidden City made the Xia family and the Bureau very concerned. They had arranged for a large number of people to monitor the situation in Forbidden City, but no one could enter. They didn't know what was happening inside. All they could see was that Forbidden City was wrapped in clouds like an immortal city. It was increasingly mysterious and unfathomable. Chapter 758. Zhou was wrapped in gauze like a mummy as he hid on the bed. A winged pixie flew beside Zhou, trying its best to spew out green light to nourish his injured body. According to the information Wang Lu had gathered, although the anomaly in Forbidden City was intense, it was limited to Forbidden City. No dimensional creatures rushed out. What was different from before was that in the past, strange sounds could only be heard from Forbidden City during thunderstorms. Now, even without thunder, one could hear strange sounds coming from inside. Unfortunately, no one could enter Forbidden City, so it was unknown what was happening inside. Due to old Master Xia's disappearance, the Xia family was in chaos. Nothing happened to Xia Luchuan and Xia Xianyue. They had even appeared near Forbidden City in the past 2 days. Zhou had roughly guessed this outcome. Apart from Xia Zhihuang, few people in the Xia family wanted them dead. After all, they were the Xia family's hope. The death of more than 10,000 epic creatures was a huge blow to any of the 6 hero families. It definitely had a huge impact on the Xia family. However, it wasn't as big as Zhou imagined. Most of the 10,000 epic creatures were nurtured by Xia Zhihuang himself. He wanted to be a sacrifice for his advancement to the mythical stage. Therefore, these people were from the East Courtyard and didn't affect the Xia family's normal system. From this point, Xia Zhihuang actually had some feelings for the Xia family. Otherwise, he wouldn't have separated these people from the Xia family and set up a separate East Courtyard. There was also Xia Luchuan and Xia Xianyue. Their talent, life providences, and life souls were top-notch. Xia Zhihuang could have used one of them as his 9th life soul, but he didn't do so in the end. Perhaps there were some emotional factors. Regardless, the destruction of Xia Zhihuang and the East Courtyard dealt quite a huge blow to the Xia family, reducing their influence in the Federation greatly. The Xia family and the Bureau were searching for old Master Xia and Zhou Wen's whereabouts, but no one saw Zhou Wen come out of Forbidden City. They imagined that Zhou Wen was trapped in the mutated Forbidden City, like old Master Xia, so they didn't search the imperial capital. Zhou Wen had been recuperating in Grandma Wang's yard for the past 2 days. It was strange. Apart from Grandma Wang, there were only a few old maids and a butler in such a huge yard. He didn't see any younger members of the Wang family. Zhou Wen asked Wang Lu and learned that this was where Grandma Wang was recuperating. The other Wang family members didn't live here, and the Wang family's real manor wasn't nearby. Zhou Wen used his stiff-wrapped hands to look at his phone. He saw a purple flower bud grow on the dead man tree. It was likely the flower that had absorbed Xia Zhihuang. Zhou Wen was somewhat looking forward to what kind of fruit the flower would bear. Xia Zhihuang had advanced to the mythical stage with 9 supreme-grade life providences and life souls. Furthermore, his body had condensed the power of the log, so the fruit he produced definitely wouldn't be too bad. It's a pity for my 6-winged. Zhou Wen sighed softly. 6-winged had been with him for so long, so he wasn't used to its sudden disappearance. With nothing to do in bed, Zhou Wen took out his phone to grind dungeons. He originally imagined that he could happily grind the 9 black dragons, but to his surprise, the 9 black dragons hadn't respawned yet. The other mythical creatures respawn every day. Don't tell me these 9 black dragons respawn every 9 days? Zhou Wen guessed. Since he couldn't grind the black dragons, Zhou turned his attention to the Guardian. During his battle with Xia Zhihuang, Zhou had gained insight into the concept of power from the Sai of the King and found a way to use the Slaughterer Life Soul. That move was extremely powerful, and might be able to pose a threat to the Guardian. Zhou called that move Immortal Slaying. Immortal Slaying was basically a one-time move. If he couldn't kill the enemy with one move, Zhou would be crippled. The main reason was that Immortal Slaying used the Sai of the King and the Slaughterer Life Soul as its foundation. It wasn't that the Slaughterer Life Soul couldn't be driven, but that the power needed to drive it was too immense. Without a high-level power like the Sai of the King as a foundation, there was no way to drive the Slaughterer Life Soul. However, using the power of the Sai of the King would place a huge burden on Zhou body. Furthermore, Immortal Slaying would expend all his strength in one go, so Zhou basically had no combat strength after one strike. However, the might of this strike was something that even Xia Zhihuang, who was wearing the Guardian armor, couldn't withstand. He had even slain the Black Jade Guardian with one strike. Such might be useful against the Guardians in Ant City and the War Wagon. It was too dangerous to use Immortal Slaying in real life. He might even kill himself before injuring the enemy. However, in-game, he didn't have so many qualms. He just had to do it. Zhou arms were held in place by splints, so he could only lie on the bed. His arms were raised like a zombie as he held his phone and began gaming. Before the 9 black dragons respawned, the war wagons stopped at the bottom of the sea. Zhou went straight to the underground sea, hoping to see if Immortal Slaying could kill the Guardian inside. Before Zhou reached the underground sea, he heard a sound from the window. The window here wasn't glass, but an ancient window made of wood and paper. When it was opened, it flipped upwards and was propped up with a wooden stick. Zhou turned his head to look at the window and saw 2 ponytails peeking out. Then, he saw a little girl's head slowly extend out and lie on the windowsill. She widened her large eyes and looked curiously at the mummy-like Zhou. Zhou saw that the girl was only 11 or 12 years old and looked very cute. From her appearance, she looked a little similar to Wang Lu. "Little friend, what's your name?" Zhou asked her. "Wang Chan," the girl answered. Just as Zhou was about to ask something, his hand suddenly slipped and the phone smashed down, hitting him in the face. Zhou's eyes turned black as his nose felt sore and painful. Zhou wanted to pick up the phone, but he couldn't bend his arm. He couldn't reach it. "I'll help you." Wang Chan pushed open the door and ran in. She reached out to pick up the phone on Zhou's face and handed it to him. "Thank you, little Chan." Zhou reached out to pick up the phone when he suddenly heard someone shouting from outside the yard. "Miss Little Chan, where are you? Come out quickly." Little Chan jumped in fright as she turned to look at the door. At the same time, she handed the phone to Zhou. However, Zhou's arm was too stiff. Before he could grab the phone, it fell with a thud and smashed into Zhou's face, causing him to grimace in pain. Chapter 759. Zhou's tears were about to flow out. Wang Chan gestured for him to keep quiet before quickly hiding under the bed. Soon, an old woman walked in and looked into the room. She didn't find Wang Chan, so she apologized for disturbing Zhou before leaving and closing the door. Only then did Wang Chan crawl out from under the bed and pat off the dust on her body. She picked up the phone beside the pillow and handed it to Zhou. "Sorry, who are you? Why are you lying here?" Zhou took the phone and said, "My name is Zhou. I'm Wang Lu's classmate." "Oh, you're that steel one. I heard sister mention you before," Wang Chan said in enlightenment. "What steel one?" Zhou was slightly taken aback, but he knew that Wang Chan was Wang Lu's younger sister. He just didn't know if she was her biological sister or a cousin related by blood. Wang Chan didn't answer. She only sized him up curiously and said, "Why are you so seriously injured? Why don't I help you treat your injuries?" "Actually, it's just a superficial wound. With the life pixies treating me, I'll be fine in a few days, Zhouwen said. Wang Chan curled her lips and said, the life pixies' healing effects are too poor. I have better companion beasts here that can quickly heal your injuries. Since you are my sister's friend, you are also my friend. It's only right for me to help you. You don't have to stand on ceremony. With that said, Wang Chan summoned a companion beast. The companion beast looked very strange. No matter how Zhouwen looked at it, the companion beast looked like a syringe with wings. Although the syringe had cute little wings and was pink, resembling Cupid's arrow of Cupid, a syringe was still a syringe. As someone who had been seriously ill when he was young and often had injections, it was impossible for him to fall in love with something like a syringe. There's no need. Zhouwen couldn't bear to reject Wang Chan's good intentions, but he didn't want to have an injection. There's no need to stand on ceremony with me. You will recover soon, Wang Chan said as she ordered the syringe to fly down and stab Zhouwen's arm. The liquid in the syringe was injected. The syringe companion beast looked rather intelligent. It could accurately inject intravenously. Zhouwen felt a wave of heat enter his blood vessels. It was warm and didn't hurt much. Furthermore, when the medicinal essence spread through his blood, Zhouwen immediately felt energized. He even felt his blood boil. Little Chan, where are you? We're going back. At that moment, a woman's voice came from outside the wall. When Little Chan heard the voice, her expression changed slightly. She turned to Zhouwen and said, my mom is looking for me. I'll visit you tomorrow. Goodbye, Steel One. With that said, Wang Chan ran out without waiting for Zhouwen's reply. To have a companion beast at such a young age, Wang Lu's sister's talent isn't bad. She's also quite kind. Zhouwen felt the vitality in his body surge as his injuries seemed to heal much faster. Just as Zhouwen was about to continue gaming, he felt something amiss. He felt his body heat up as though there was a huge furnace inside him. It's hot. It's hot. Not long after, Zhouwen felt like he couldn't take it anymore. He tore off the gauze on his body and allowed the heat in his body to dissipate. Even so, he still felt uncomfortable from the swelling. It was as though there was a force pushing him in his body, causing him to move involuntarily. First, he ran, but he realized that running released too little heat. Zhouwen sprawled on the ground and did push-ups. It was as though he had an electric motor installed. His body moved up and down rapidly with the hot air. The heat was really helpful to Zhouwen's injuries. It sped up the healing of his wounds, but Zhouwen's crazy exercise tore open the wounds on his body. When Zhouwen finally stopped, he realized that not only had his injuries not healed, but they had also torn open some areas that had already healed. What companion beast is that? Why are the effects so domineering? Zhouwen was somewhat helpless. Although Wang Chan's companion beast did have healing effects and the effects were very good, he couldn't withstand the heat. He crazily exercised, resulting in the opposite effect. After lying in bed again, Zhouwen couldn't be bothered to get someone to wrap him in gauze again. He got the life pixie to treat his injuries while he lay in bed gaming. The blood-colored avatar entered the underground sea and opened the door to the war wagon. He saw the white cocoon floating in the void. Zhouwen held the golden overlord's sword and activated the Sigh of the King. He waited for the Sigh of the King's power to reach a certain level before activating Slaughterer and using Immortal Slaying. The blood-colored avatar's body trembled. As the Sigh of the King was just too powerful, the blood-colored avatar's body couldn't withstand it. It began to crack as blood seeped out. This level of power was still insufficient to activate Slaughterer. Just as the blood-colored avatar's body was about to collapse, Slaughterer was finally activated. Zhouwen held the golden overlord's sword and activated Immortal Slaying as he slashed at the white cocoon. The void was sliced open as spatial forces couldn't withstand the power of Immortal Slaying. The white cocoon was almost instantly split open, revealing the guardian inside. This was the first time Zhou had seen the Guardian's full appearance. It was somewhat different from what Zhou had imagined. The Guardian inside the cocoon wasn't a dragon. It looked more like an ancient emperor. Dressed in an imperial robe and with a crown on his head, he extended a hand. The hand had 6 fingers, and each finger wore a ring. Immediately, the 6 rings brought with them intense spatial fluctuations as one of his hands faced the golden overlord sword. Crack! Wherever the golden overlord sword passed, the Guardian's arm was sliced off as blood splattered. The spatial forces couldn't change the trajectory of immortal slaying. Zhou was first delighted before he saw the Guardian's other hand extend out. It also had 6 fingers and 6 rings. With a slap, the blood-colored avatar, who had fallen into a weakened state after using immortal slaying, exploded. The game screen went black. From the looks of it, immortal slaying is still useful against Guardians. However, next time, I should directly sever the Guardian's neck. Zhou dripped his blood to revive and entered the game again. Soon, Zhou realized that although immortal slaying could fend off the Guardian, he didn't have the ability to continue fighting because he missed. As for this Guardian, he had very powerful spatial powers. It was clearly very difficult to kill him in one strike. Zhou tried a few times, but he could only injure him, not kill him. The power of immortal slaying is continuous. If I can guarantee that the blood-colored avatar won't be killed by the counterattack, as long as I wait a little longer, the Guardian might die. Zhou continued trying. He realized that this was similarly difficult to do. This was because after immortal slaying, the blood-colored avatar's body was almost at its limit. It had no combat ability at all. It was impossible to escape from a Guardian who was proficient in spatial powers. My level is still too low. If I were also at the mythical stage, why would I worry about not being able to kill this Guardian with one strike? Zhou was momentarily unable to think of a good solution. Chapter 760. After many attempts, Zhou realized that he should find a weaker Guardian to kill, such as the Black Jade Guardian he had previously killed or the 6-winged Seraphim from before. I wonder where that 6-winged Seraphim went. It'll be good if I can find him, Zhou thought to himself. The Guardians in Ant City and the War Wagon were probably the strongest among Guardians. At the very least, among the Guardians Zhou had seen, no one had shown greater strength than them. Early the next morning, Wang Quan really came again. The wounds on Zhou's body had been bandaged again. Wang Lu had bandaged them for him yesterday afternoon. However, Zhou didn't mention Wang Quan's matter. After all, Wang Quan had done it out of kindness. There was no need to mention her matter and make the sisters unhappy. When Wang Quan saw Zhou's expression, she asked in surprise, "Are your injuries still not healed? Didn't I already treat you yesterday?" "I'm almost done. I want to recuperate," Zhou said. "Why don't I give you another injection?" As Wang Quan spoke, she summoned the syringe-like companion beast. There's no need. Zhou hurriedly waved his hand. "Don't treat my injuries. I just want to slack off and lie here for a few days. If you treat all my injuries, I'll have to continue working." "So you want to slack off?" Wang Quan was enlightened and didn't insist on treating Zhou. She put away the syringe companion beast. "I heard from my sister that you're a genius. You can become very powerful just by learning something. Is that true?" Wang Quan asked Zhou. "Your sister is exaggerating. I've been practicing seriously," Zhou said. "I knew it. How can there be someone in this world who can become powerful just by learning something? I've already worked so hard, but I still can't learn well." Wang Quan heaved a sigh of relief. She pulled a chair and placed it in front of the bed. She leaned against the back of the chair and looked at Zhou before continuing, "Do you have any secrets to learning? Can you teach me?" "It can't be considered a secret, but I do have some experience. What do you want to learn?" Zhou thought that since Wang Lu had helped him so much, It was only right for him to help her sister. Essence energy arts, sword techniques, and movement techniques are all difficult to learn. No matter how hard I try, I can't reach their standards. I'm always being scolded, Wang Chan said with a bitter expression. Why do you find it difficult? Zhou asked Wang Chan. Because it's very hard to remember. My memory isn't too good. I always remember the front and forget the back. I remember the back and forget the front, Wang Chan said. Actually, it's very simple. Just tell me any primordial energy skill you have learned and I'll tell you how to memorize it. It's easier, Zhou said. This is an essence energy art that I've been memorizing recently. I've memorized it recently. Zhou Wen's expression gradually changed. After listening for a while, Zhou Wen's expression gradually turned awkward. The essence energy art that Wang Chan recited was all ancient text that was difficult to understand. Furthermore, it was very long. She had memorized thousands of words in one go, but it sounded like there was still a long part to go. Even with Zhou Wen's memory, it was difficult for him to memorize everything before he understood the meaning of the article. Hey, little Chan, stop for a moment. How many words are there behind this essence energy art? Zhou stopped Wang Chan and asked. There are a total of 134,467 words. I've been memorizing them for days, but I still remember the front and forget the back. I keep memorizing them wrongly, Wang Chan said in frustration. Zhou thought to himself, it would be a miracle if you can memorize everything. It's such an obscure ancient text. If you can't understand it and can memorize it correctly, you wouldn't be a genius, but a god. This ancient text was actually about the same as a foreign language. Thinking about it, it would be too harsh to memorize a foreign language work of more than 100,000 words in a few days without making any mistakes. Did anyone explain the contents of this essence energy art to you? Zhou asked. Yes, but it sounds very difficult to understand. I don't really remember it, Wang Chan said. Zhou thought for a moment and said to Wang Chan with a smile, Then do you like to listen to stories? I do. I love listening to Sister tell me the stories of the 6 Federation heroes. They fight and explore unknown dimensional zones. I also hope that one day I can be like them, going to those unknown places and fighting unknown powerful creatures to obtain magical companion beasts. Wang Chan wore a look of longing. Zhou smiled at Wang Chan and said, Actually, the essence energy art you just memorized is a story of a hero's adventure. TCH, can you not coax me like a little girl? Wang Chan curled her lips. If you don't believe me, recite it. I'll translate this hero's adventure story for you, Zhou said. Wang Chan naturally didn't believe him as she began reciting the essence energy art. The great Tao is invisible, but it gives birth to the world. The great Tao is heartless, but it moves the sun and moon. The great Tao is nameless, but it nourishes all things. As Wang Chan recited, she looked at Zhou. No matter how she thought about it, she couldn't tell what this essence energy art had to do with a hero's story. Alright, I'll translate this sentence for you first. Zhou gestured for Wang Chan to stop reciting. Wang Chan stopped reciting and blinked at Zhou. She didn't believe that it could be translated into a story. Zhou pondered for a moment before saying directly, There was a beautiful and adorable girl. She was extremely talented. At the age of 3, she reached the legendary stage at the age of 6. At the age of 9, she had already advanced to the mythical stage. At the age of 12, she was already invincible in the Federation. How can there be such a powerful girl? Are you spouting nonsense? Besides, this has nothing to do with an essence energy art, right? Wang Chan curled her lips. Listen to me. That young hero was already invincible at the age of 12. She was just too lonely and couldn't obtain defeat even if she wanted to. However, on this day, a youth who was about the same age as her appeared and challenged her. In the end, he only used one move to defeat her. Wang Chan interrupted him again. Why is your story contradictory? You already said that the girl was already invincible. How could she be defeated in one move? Do you still want to listen to the story? Zhou glared at her. Go ahead, Wang Chan said with a smile. After being defeated by the youth, the girl asked the youth, "Why are you so powerful?" The youth answered her that it was because he had obtained a treasure in a mysterious dimensional zone. That treasure could nurture the world and control the movements of the sun and moon. From then on, the girl embarked on a journey to search for treasures. As Wang Chan recited, Zhou translated the content she recited into a hero's story. Wang Chan was gradually attracted by the content of the story and forgot to nitpick at Zhou's story. Chapter 761. Among any knowledge, the hardest to remember were the unfamiliar professional terms and descriptions. This was because such terms and descriptions were usually not used, so there were no memory points that could be linked to one's own knowledge system. It was just like a person from the West District. If you asked him to read the Tao scriptures, he wouldn't know what the Tao was. If you asked him to read the Book of Changes, he wouldn't know what the 8 trigrams was either. These terms were very difficult to form memory points for foreigners. When Zhou told the story, he turned these difficult abstract words into treasures in the story. It made Wang Chan find these treasures novel and interesting, allowing her to remember these terms. The story you made up is quite interesting, but the treasures in the story are different from the true meaning of the essence energy arts, right? After Wang Chan heard Zhou's story, she felt a little unsatisfied, but she also realized a problem. Although it's different, it made you remember those words that were originally difficult to remember, right? Zhou said with a smile. Wang Chan thought about it and realized that she had really remembered them. When she thought of those words, she found them much more vivid. In the future, when you learn those obscure primordial energy arts and primordial energy skills, treat them as a story. As for the things you don't understand, treat them as battles with all sorts of unknown dimensional creatures. After defeating them, the knowledge obtained will be treasures, Zhou said. I'm not as whimsical as you, Wang Chan said. If you don't even dare to think about it and only know how to follow the path of others, what's the point of such a life? Zhou said. Wang Chan looked at Zhou in a daze. Growing up, the experts who taught her at home would tell her how powerful these essence energy arts and essence energy skills were, as well as their origins. They also told her what she could do in the future if she learned them. However, no one had ever told her that no matter how powerful those essence energy arts and essence energy skills were, they were all leftovers from someone else's practice. No matter how strong she was, she would ultimately be inferior to others. Is such whimsical really okay? Wang Chan looked at Zhou in a daze as though she was asking him, but also muttering to herself. Of course. There are only things in this world that you can't think of, but there's nothing you can't do. As long as you dare to think, you will eventually think of a solution. The most important thing is if you dare to think, Zhou said. I'll try it later. Wang Chan was about to say something when she heard her phone ring. It wasn't someone calling her, but an alarm she had set. I should go back, but I will remember your story, and I will remember your words. Wang Chan thought for a moment and said, You are indeed as sister said. You are a very special person. After Wang Chan left, Zhou could finally grind in peace. However, just as Zhou lay down on the bed, he suddenly heard a crack. Then, the wooden bed fell apart. It was an ancient wooden bed with carved patterns. There was even a carved frame on it. The entire bed fell apart, causing Zhou to fall to the ground as shattered wood pelted him. The injuries on Zhou's body hadn't healed yet. The wood didn't injure him, but when the wounds were smashed, the corners of his mouth twitched in pain. What's going on? My luck hasn't been good recently. Why did the bed collapse when I was sleeping? Zhou was depressed. Upon hearing the sound, the butler came over and was alarmed when he saw Zhou's appearance. He hurriedly helped Zhou up and got someone to clean up the bed before changing it for a new one. During the few days that Zhou was recuperating, Wang Chan often sneaked over to play with him. However, for some reason, Zhou would be very unlucky every time Wang Chan came. Once, when Zhou was eating, Wang Chan ran over. Just as Zhou was about to finish a bowl of rice, he realized that there was half a worm in it. It nearly made Zhou vomit all the rice he had eaten. Zhou suspected that his bad luck had something to do with Wang Chan. This was because every time he was unlucky, Wang Chan seemed to be by his side. However, after some thought, Zhou felt that it was unlikely. Wang Lu was Wang Chan's sister. With such a lucky person, it was impossible for the people around her to be unlucky. However, there was something strange. Wang Chan always came to him when there was no one around, as though she didn't want others to see her. Zhou only imagined that the Wang family was stricter and that her studies were more important. There was no time for Wang Chan to come out to play, so she would sneak out. He didn't tell Wang Lu and Grandma Wang about this. After a few days, Zhou's injuries healed significantly. Although he still couldn't fight intensely, he had no problems with ordinary actions. He left the Wang family and took a stroll. Zhou didn't plan on returning to Luoyang. He hadn't done the most important thing in coming to the imperial capital. Zhou put on the invisibility cloak and walked on the street without anyone seeing him. He headed straight for the ancient sword tomb. The ancient sword tomb was one of the important dimensional zones of the Xia family. Many sword-type companion beasts were obtained from the ancient sword tomb. Zhou planned on heading to the ancient sword tomb to take a look. If there was a tiny palm symbol, he would download an ancient sword tomb dungeon. Apart from the ancient sword tomb, there were many dimensional zones in the imperial capital that Zhou planned on visiting. The ancient sword tomb was guarded by the Xia family's guards, but it was useless against Zhou. With the invisibility cloak, the guards couldn't see him at all. Zhou used the Godfiend Era's powers and floated over without making a sound. After searching outside the ancient sword tomb for a while, he easily found a tiny palm symbol and took a picture of it. My luck today isn't bad. Zhou turned around and left the ancient sword tomb in delight, heading for the next dimensional zone. On the way, he had already downloaded the ancient sword tomb. However, it wasn't convenient for him to use his phone while wearing the invisibility cloak. Otherwise, if his phone was exposed and passers-by saw a phone flying in the air, the timid would probably pee their pants in fright. The second dimensional zone Zhou planned on heading to was the 13 Tombs. It was an ancient royal cemetery. After the dimensional storms, it had also become a dimensional zone. It was rather magical and had many good things. Furthermore, the 13 Tombs was a dimensional zone under the Bureau. It forbade anyone other than the Bureau from entering. Zhou never had a good impression of the Bureau. If it wasn't for his serious injuries, he would definitely have made a trip to the Bureau's headquarters. Now that he hadn't recovered from his injuries, he temporarily didn't head to the Bureau's headquarters. It wasn't a bad idea to bid for their dimensional zone. His luck today was unexpectedly good. After Zhou arrived at the 13 Tombs, it didn't take him long to find the tiny palm symbol and successfully download another game dungeon. After leaving the 13 Tombs, Zhou continued to the next dimensional zone. This time, the dimensional zone Zhou went to was rather famous. It was the legendary Great Wall. Chapter 762. There were many dimensional zones in the Great Wall, not just in the imperial capital. Zhou didn't have the chance to go anywhere else for the time being, so he came here first, hoping to find the tiny palm symbol to download as a game dungeon. The various Great Wall dimensional zones were similar. The dimensional creatures inside were creatures called battle souls. However, due to the different regions, the battle souls were different. The most common battle soul here was called the Undying Battle Soul. It was said that no matter what method was used, The battle souls here couldn't be killed. Therefore, no one came here after a long time. Zhou was most interested in these strange dimensional creatures, so he wanted to download them onto his phone and study them. Just as Zhou arrived in front of the Great Wall, and before he could begin searching for the tiny palm symbol, he saw two people walk over. One of them was Wang Chan. Little Chan, where are you going? A silver-haired youth asked as he walked beside Wang Chan. It's my freedom to go wherever I want. It's none of your business, Wang Chan said without turning her head. How can I not care about you? Your father asked me to take care of you. I can't let anything happen to you. If anything happens to you, how can I explain it to your father? The silver-haired youth said with a smile. You don't need to explain. Xiao Si, I can tell you now that I definitely won't go to the South District with you. I want to be like my sister and study at Sunset College, Wang Chan said. Xiao Si's expression didn't change as he continued following Wang Chan. He said casually, Little Chan, stop joking. Your sister has the goddess of luck life providence, so she can naturally go wherever she wants. However, your life providence is the goddess of misfortune. Apart from me, who has the traversing misfortune Buddha body, who can turn your misfortune into fortune. Only by my side can you reverse fate and enjoy luck. The heavens have destined me to protect you forever. I don't need any luck, much less your protection. Don't think I don't know that you want to use this to threaten our Wang family to help your Xiao family, Wang Chan said. I need your family's help, and you also need my help. Isn't that good? Xiao Si said. No, it's not good at all. I've already said that I don't need your help, nor do I need any luck, Wang Chan said. You don't have to care, but have you ever thought about your family? If I hadn't dispelled your bad luck, your family would have been affected by it. Don't tell me you don't know? Originally, your Wang family had a great opportunity to advance the Wang family to the next level, even becoming an existence comparable to the Xia family. But because of your birth, the Wang family fell short of success. If it weren't for your sister's strong luck, the Wang family might even have quickly declined. Do you want that to happen again? Xiao Si said slowly. Wang Chan curled her lips and said, Don't try to scare me. With my sister around, my bad luck won't affect my family. Furthermore, I'll soon be going to Sunset College to study, so it won't affect my family. Then what about the people from Sunset College? You will have classmates, friends, and people you like there. However, the better your relationship with them and the closer you are to them, the more they will be affected by your bad luck. They will constantly have bad luck and might even lose their lives because of it. Have you really decided to study at Sunset College without my company? Xiao Si said calmly. When Wang Chan heard Xiao Si's words, she seemed to hesitate, but she still said, You don't have to be alarmist. My life providence isn't that terrifying. Even if you and my sister aren't around, my life providence won't cause people to lose their lives. They will just be a little unlucky. After being invisible for so long, Zhou finally understood two things. Wang Lu's luck wasn't metaphysics, but because she had the goddess of luck life providence. Zhou had long guessed this. However, Zhou never expected that as Wang Lu's biological sister, Wang Chan would have the opposite goddess of misfortune life providence. It was unbelievable that sisters born from the same parents would have such a huge difference in life providence. However, on second thought, something unlucky would happen every time he met Wang Chan. Zhou had no choice but to believe that Wang Chan might indeed have such a life providence. The smile on Xiao Si's face vanished as he looked at Wang Chan and said, Don't tell me you want to study at Sunset College because of your sister? What has this got to do with you? Anyway, I definitely won't return to the Xiao family in the South District with you, Wang Chan said. Xiao Si laughed. It's fine. You can give it a try with that person and see how your life providence will affect him. Then, it won't be too late to make a decision. I believe that other than me, no man in the world can withstand the bad luck you bring. I've already tried. There's no problem, Wang Chan said. Then, did you take him to a dimensional zone? Xiaoxi asked. Why should I go to a dimensional zone? Wang Chan asked. If you really go to Sunset College to study, it's inevitable that you will enter a dimensional zone to complete your homework mission. Isn't that normal? Or are you afraid that he will lose his life because of you? Xiaoxi said with a smile. So be it. It's no big deal. Wang Chan turned around and left angrily. Xiaoxi stood there without moving. After watching Wang Chan leave, he took out his phone and made a call. An outsider approached Wang Chan and obtained her trust. That person might be a student of Sunset College. Find out who that person is. I don't want him to affect Wang Chan's plan to enter my Xiao family. After hanging up, Xiaoxi slowly left. After Xiaoxi left, Zhou looked at his back and pondered for a moment. Then, he took out his phone and called Wang Lu to ask about Wang Chan and Xiaoxi. When Wang Lu heard that Zhou had already met Wang Chan, she sighed and recounted the matter between Wang Chan and Xiaoxi in detail. When Wang Chan was young, she had only had bad luck, but her talent was still very good. She was also very hard-working, and her family had high hopes for her. However, a few months ago, Wang Chan condensed a life providence. She never expected her life providence to be the goddess of misfortune, the opposite of Wang Lu's. Her life providence brought quite a bit of trouble to the people around her. Only when Wang Lu was by her side could the situation improve. However, it was impossible for Wang Lu to stay by her side forever. Therefore, the Wang family had always hoped to resolve Wang Chan's life providence problem. They had thought of many solutions, but the effects weren't good. It was unknown where the Xiao family in the South District had heard of this matter. They got Xiaoxi, who had the traversing calamity Buddha body, to come to the Wang family. Under the influence of his traversing calamity Buddha body, not only did Wang Chan's misfortune life providence not trigger any misfortune, but it also became lucky. This made Wang Chan's parents, Wang Lu and company very happy. The Xiao family didn't make any excessive requests. They only hoped that Xiaoxi could stay in the Wang family and spend more time with Wang Chan. If the two of them got along, they might become husband and wife when Wang Chan reached the legal age of marriage. Their life providences complemented each other. If they could really become husband and wife, it would be beneficial to both of them. Although the Wang family felt that the Xiao family was deliberately currying favor with them, Xiaoxi's life providence was just too important to Wang Chan. Even if the Wang family had to pay a price for it, it was worth it. Therefore, they got Xiaoxi to stay in the Wang family to accompany Wang Chan. Firstly, it could resolve the danger of the goddess of misfortune life providence. Secondly, it could let them spend some time together. Perhaps what the Xiao family wants isn't the Wang family's help, but Wang Chan herself, Zhou thought. However, as he didn't have any evidence, Zhou couldn't tell Wang Lu. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.